Chapter 1765. At noon that day, Father and Mother Wang saw that Wang Ling, for the first time, hadn't chosen to stay at home and study while eating crispy noodle snacks. Instead, he had changed into clean sportswear and was ready to go out. Normally, the couple wouldn't find it strange if they went out to do something, but for some reason today, Father and Mother Wang had the same feeling. There was something very wrong with Wang Ling. Do you think Ling Ling has a girlfriend? On the sofa, seeing Wang Ling put on his shoes at the entrance, Mother Wang couldn't help elbowing Father Wang next to her as she hugged Wang Wan. Father Wang quietly put down the newspaper with 2 holes in it, his heart full of doubts. No way, our son is finally going to blossom? He felt that at Wang Ling's age it was very normal for him to like someone or be liked by someone. It was the first awakening of love for young people, and feelings came easily when they weren't that mature. What was more, that Miss Sun of Huagua Water Curtain Group was bombarded with sugar-coated bullets. Father Wang felt that he probably wouldn't have been able to withstand it if it had been him. The couple stared at Wang Ling's back as he changed his shoes for a long time, and as their minds filled in the blanks, their gossipy hearts couldn't help burning. It wasn't until Wang Ling chose to close the door that Father Wang got up and carefully tucked Wan into his broad and warm arms. How about this? You stay at home and look after Wan, I'll go take a look. Father Wang was speechless in his heart. A woman's gossipy nature could sometimes be very scary when it was aroused. Those unscrupulous reporters in the entertainment industry had been scolded every day, but they still went to collect gossip about celebrities regardless of the weather. In the end, it was because there was a market demand. Since there was demand, it meant that there was money to be made. Father Wang felt that this was a bad trend and should be resisted. In the end, Mother Wang just rolled her eyes at him, and he immediately shriveled up. What do you know? We're just concerned about Ling Ling, so he doesn't go astray. Young people's relationships were all temporary and unreliable. By the way, what if the person he likes isn't Lotus Sun? Father Wang was silent. As expected, the latter half of the sentence was the main point. God? What if the person you like isn't Miss Lotus Sun? So you've already decided. Women are really easy to bribe. Isn't it just some high-end beauty products every month? Is there a need for that? That little girl was only about the same age as Wang Ling. How would she know what real feelings were? This was what Father Wang thought in his heart, but it seemed that Mother Wang could always see through his little thoughts. She chuckled. Do you know the person who topped your readers' donation list? Are you talking about that swordswoman Farong? Father Wang immediately gave out the reader's ID. This was the number 1 reader who had been tipping the list for 3 months in a row. In just one day, he had tipped more than the total amount that Ajua, who had used the ID, super high school level deputy director, had given him back then. In fact, Father Wang had always wanted to find an opportunity to get to know this nouveau riche reader, but heroine Hibiscus was too mysterious. Apart from sending him gifts and finding all kinds of opportunities to dominate the rankings, she didn't join any reader groups, nor did she say a word in the comment section. Do you know this swordswoman Farong? Father Wang raised his eyebrows as he looked at Mother Wang, who was changing her clothes. It said that pregnancy makes you stupid for 3 years. Why do I feel that it's not me who's stupid but you? Isn't that wrong? Mother Wang laughed. Hearing this, Father Wang's expression instantly changed, and he looked at Mother Wang with an incomparably resolute gaze. All right, dear, I support you in everything you do. Mother Wang chuckled. You were really easy to bribe. By the way, Ling Ling has already left. How are you going to catch up? Lord Ma can take me there. I'll have Lord Ma cover for me in passing, and I'm sure there won't be any problems. Not long after Wang Ling left, he had already sensed that he was being watched. Furthermore, the person who was watching him was his mother. Of course, he also understood that Lord Ma, who was caught in the middle, was also very uncomfortable. On one side was the immortal king, and on the other side was the immortal king's mother. Neither side was easy to offend, and Lord Ma naturally had no choice but to obey Mother Wang's instructions. He was helpless, but there was nothing else he could do now. Since Mother Wang was following him, he could only ask Makujio to change his appearance, so that when Mother Wang saw that Makujio looked exactly like him, he wouldn't be able to explain himself. Wang Ling and Wang Muyu had agreed to meet at Daybuk Cafe in Yida Square in the city center today. The little guy was quite obedient, and after seeing Wang Ling's text message, he took the initiative to change his appearance to a chubby one. It was just that this change was different from the last time in Duobao City. He didn't grow taller, and instead of having the greasy appearance of a fat otaku, he had become a little cute little fatty. His facial features were a little similar to Wang Ling's, but because he had become fatter, it was hard to tell if you didn't look closely. "Dad, brother." As soon as they met, the little guy almost blurted out in excitement, making Wang Ling nervous. Fortunately, he managed to restrain himself in the end. They had agreed beforehand that he wasn't allowed to call Wang Ling Dad in front of outsiders. Wang Muyu hadn't deliberately disobeyed this rule. He had just been too happy to see Wang Ling. Because this was the first time Wang Ling had asked him out to experience the cultivation life of modern society with him. Excluding that time when he had sneaked out to Duobao City, it seemed that his whole world had been Huagua Water Curtain Group's unchanging science and technology park. There was everything inside, but for some reason, when he strolled around, he felt that it lacked a little of the world's bustling atmosphere. When the employees in the park saw him, they all greeted him with smiles and were all very polite. No matter how mischievous he was, they always had that professional smile on their faces, which often made Wang Muyu feel like he was locked in a preset world. Now that he was out with Wang Ling, this feeling was instantly dispelled. Furthermore, he and Wang Ling now had a common hobby, and that was that he was also one of the crazies for crispy noodle snacks. At first, Wang Muyu had to admit that he actually didn't like the snacks of the human world. If he hadn't heard that Wang Ling liked crispy noodle snacks, he probably wouldn't have touched food that reeked of pepper. It was precisely because he wanted to understand Wang Ling that he made up his mind to give it a try. In the end, he realized that it was very addictive. Furthermore, he realized that all the snacks in the human world seemed to make him very addicted. It wasn't just crispy noodle snacks. He could also accept potato chips, spicy strips and so on. This was a thigh. The revival of the Dragon Clan. Actually, Wang Muyu had thought this through very clearly from the very beginning. It would probably be very difficult for him to do it alone. It would be better for him to tightly hug the thigh in front of him. He was actually very open-minded. More open-minded than all the members of the Dragon Clan. If he could beat them, he would fight. If he couldn't beat them, he would join them. Chapter 1766. Of course, Wang Muyu's decision to do so wasn't because he had just hatched. Although he had said that he was Wang Ling's father, when he had first hatched, he had known nothing about his daddy's strength. It wasn't until he had seen the scene of Wang Ling hammering Clean Zay that he had immediately made up his mind to hug Wang Ling tightly. In the past, glory and self-respect were things that couldn't be given up on for the Dragon Clan. As an outstanding dragon warrior, it was impossible for him to yield to others. But Wang Muyu's way of thinking was naturally different. Maybe it was because he had gathered too many dragon genes that his brain circuitry had been a little strange from the start. Glory and self-respect didn't exist. Glory was precious, but self-respect was even more valuable. As long as you hugged the leg tightly, you could abandon both. This was a little poem that Wang Muyu had casually composed while he and Old Man Sun had been learning about the culture of the human world over the past few days. As a member of the Dragon Clan, he knew that he probably shouldn't be so close to human cultivators. But he wasn't completely a dragon now, and was a little dragon person with dragon genes as well as some human attributes. Wang Muyu realized that he really loved life in the human cultivation world, especially when he was with Wang Ling or Lotus Sun. He didn't feel lonely at all. Wang Ling and Wang Muyu had decided from the start that they would go to the arcade city in the square. "Bro, let's go play this. This is fun. Lots of points. We can switch to crispy noodle snacks. Bro, that punching machine looks pretty good, but it's not strong enough. If I hit it with half my strength, will it break?" Wang Muyu grabbed Wang Ling's hand excitedly as he talked and bounced along the way, looking completely like a child. There were a lot of games in the arcade city, and in order to earn points, Wang Ling's specialty had been the gold coin bulldozer. Of course, in order to cheat players of their game coins, The arcade city actually had a lot of games that involved luck, such as the gold coin bulldozer. This time, who knew if it was because Wang Muyu's excitement had infected him, but Wang Ling brought him to a brand new game console. The name of this game machine was Dongfeng Express. The general rule was that every round, players could exchange one game coin for a chance to fire a cannonball. The cannonball would fall from the sky. On the bottom of the game machine, there were a lot of holes and obstacles that were marked with the number of points. When the wheel spins, it proves that the game has begun. Wang Ling pressed the button to launch the cannonball, and in the end, the position of the ball in the pit would determine how many points he had won. The first prize was 1,000 points. If one could continuously hit a hole worth more than 600 points, there would be a bonus reward, up to 100 times the base of the first prize. However, this difficulty factor was extremely high. Since the opening of the game hall, no one had ever succeeded. However, the size of the hole was about the same as the diameter of the ball, so the ball had to be accurately aimed at the hole. If it was slightly off, the ball would bounce out. Wang Ling bought Wang Muyu an ice cream so that he could eat it while he watched Wang Ling perform. Wang Muyu originally didn't think much of this kind of game that involved luck. Before he officially started, Wang Ling took out the raccoon mask and put it on. He knew that the performance would definitely be too eye-catching, so he had to disguise himself. He had already enchanted the mask, so it was impossible for anyone to see his true appearance through the mask with their power of sight. "Daddy, you can do it?" Wang Muyu looked like he was watching a show as he obediently sat next to Wang Ling and cheered him on telepathically as he ate his ice cream. Who would have thought that Wang Ling wasn't just invincible at fighting, he was also invincible at video games. His cannonball was extremely accurate, and each shot was worth 1,000 points. In less than 10 minutes, he had earned 10 million points, directly emptying the machine of the lottery tickets which had been used to accumulate points. Halfway through, the staff came to open the boxes and renew the tickets twice. In the end, they simply wiped their sweat and stood next to Wang Ling to watch him perform. After another 15 minutes or so, this video arcade little brother wiped his sweat and looked at Wang Ling. "Bro, how about I clear your points and give you the tickets? Otherwise, you'll be tired and I'll be tired too." Wang Ling. Wang Ling. Wang Ling. In less than half an hour, Wang Ling had already earned almost 100 million points with the game coins he had. The lottery tickets at his feet had piled up into small mountains, attracting the attention of many people at the scene. Even Wang Muyu was stupefied as he stared blankly. All his attention was focused on Wang Ling, and his admiration for him grew. He completely didn't notice that the ice cream in his hand had melted and fallen to the ground with a plop. "This person is so amazing. Quick, go and find out where he came from. My prizes." In the end, the huge commotion caused by Wang Ling's side alarmed the video arcade manager, who came over with his heart bleeding. With so many points, he could practically clear out all the prizes in the arcade in one go. The most important thing was that the manager learned that Wang Ling actually hadn't used his money to exchange for game coins at all, but had directly used his game arcade membership card. Speaking of which, Wang Ling had obtained this game arcade membership card when he had visited Lotus Sun back then. When Wang Ling inserted his membership card into the point accumulator to redeem his points, his member ID was immediately displayed. The two big words, "Agon," were like a golden legend that had suddenly appeared, directly blinding everyone. Agon! Oh my god, he's Agon! The #1 demon who emptied out the arcade. My god! So this person is Agon, he's too strong. Wang Ling had left behind this name when he had visited Lotus Sun more than a month ago. In fact, even Wang Ling himself hadn't expected the ID he had left behind to not only become a legend, but also so influential. Contrary to Wang Ling's expectations, the video arcade manager, who had looked like his heart was dripping blood before seeing the ID, instead had a pleasantly surprised expression on his face. "Sir, may I ask what prize you would like to exchange for?" He greeted the manager with a wide smile, bewildering the employees around him. What's wrong with the manager? It feels like his attitude has suddenly changed. What do you know, this Agon isn't just a legend. Furthermore, he seems to have something to do with the big boss behind us. He's a Crown Diamond member, so he can exchange for things that aren't available in the store. A Crown Diamond member? And this thing, why haven't I heard of it? In fact, even Wang Ling himself didn't know he actually had this identity. But since Lotus Sun had given him this card, it was most likely her side who had arranged for it. Under the raccoon mask, Wang Ling broke out in a sweat. He then opened the redemption page for the points redemption machine, and sure enough, there were a lot of things that weren't available in the arcade. Holy shit! This is the first time I've heard that you can exchange houses when you play video games. When the onlookers saw the top garden bungalow in the city center on the redemption page, which was worth 100 million points, they all cried out in surprise. Furthermore, there was a special note under this prize. It read, "This is a garden bungalow in the city center worth 100 million points. If you move in with your fiancé surnamed Sun, born in 4380, you can enjoy even more benefits." Wang Ling realized that Old Man Sun had clearly arranged everything for him. Chapter 1767. Driven by the capitalist economy of modern cultivation society, the high-priced real estate industry chain, almost all cultivators had become mortgage slaves who were tied up with huge mortgages. Although the space expansion technology could expand the usable area of the house, not everyone could afford this technology. Wool came from the sheep's back, and in the end, the people who benefited the most were always the top group of cultivators. So when the option to exchange video game points for real estate came out, Wang Ling could instantly sense the envious, jealous, and hateful gazes of the onlookers around him. Wang Ling wasn't interested in real estate. No matter how big a house was, if it wasn't rich in spirit and culture, it would just be an endless emptiness that couldn't be filled. Thus, he chose to directly skip this option, and in the end, his gaze fell on the special snack voucher worth 10 million points. He had 100 million points, which was just enough to exchange for 10 of them. World Snack Voucher. After seeing Wang Ling choose this option, the people around him felt their hearts bleed. He didn't want a good house, but actually wanted to exchange it for snacks. Was this Agon guru a spoiled brat? But then again, a guru's way of thinking was peculiar to begin with, and normal people couldn't fathom it. After seeing Wang Ling's choice, the crowd around him had disappointed expressions on their faces and then dispersed. Only Wang Muyu looked at Wang Ling with adoration in his eyes. "Boss, how do we use this voucher?" After Wang Ling took out the World Snack Voucher, Wang Muyu smiled innocently and adorably at the video game hall. The manager bent down and explained patiently, "It's like this, Godgon, and Godgon's little brother. It's a little troublesome to use the snack voucher in this world. Have you seen the flag on the snack coupon? Each flag corresponds to a country, and the World Snack Coupon is equivalent to a VIP card for snacks. As long as you go to that country with the corresponding national flag voucher, you can use this voucher to exchange for snacks worth 100,000 yuan at any large supermarket. There's no limit to the number of times you can exchange it, and it will stop when the quota is used up. It's just that it's particularly troublesome to use. You have to run over and exchange it yourself. But it would be troublesome to go abroad now. You also have to go through all kinds of procedures to prove it." Speaking up to this point, the manager looked at Wang Ling mysteriously and said, "So I suggest that Godgon consider acting as if nothing happened. We'll give you back your points and you can choose again?" Obviously, this manager was also on Elder Sun's side. Wang Ling stared at the World Snack coupons in his hand and finally shook his head. As for the round-trip tickets, he didn't need it, because he could teleport. "Brother, are we really going?" After taking away the World Snack coupon, Wang Muyu's expression became even more excited. Not only had he come out this time, he could actually go abroad with Wang Ling. This was basically a travel adventure. Looking at Wang Muyu's excited expression, Wang Ling nodded helplessly. In any case, he was just going to exchange for snacks. It wouldn't be long before he came back. Very quickly, he drew out his first global snack voucher and chose his first stop, Mishio Nation's Glio City. After confirming that there was no one around, he put his hand on Wang Muyu's shoulder. "Daddy, it's alright. It's just teleportation, I can keep up with you." Wang Muyu transmitted his voice over with an innocent smile. Wang Ling had almost forgotten that Wang Muyu was a capable little dragon person. He had originally thought that bringing Wang Muyu out to play would be a very difficult task. In the end, the little guy was much more obedient than he had imagined. He was so sensible that he couldn't find any excuse to dislike him. So in the end, Wang Ling let go of his hand on Wang Muyu's shoulder. He knew the little guy wanted to show off in front of him. He had to give the little guy a chance to show off. At the same time, Mother Wang, who was hiding in the next cubicle, still couldn't stop herself from gossiping. She knew that Wang Ling was definitely going to go abroad to exchange for snacks, and for a moment, she was a little hesitant about whether or not she should follow him. "May I ask if your Highness Numinous Mother with the axe still wants to follow them?" Lord Ma asked in a very low voice. "Let's go home." Mother Wang frowned, because she had already taken a photo of Wang Muyu. But it wasn't Wang Muyu's original appearance, but the way he had deliberately become fat. Mother Wang felt that he looked vaguely familiar, but she couldn't put her finger on what was wrong. Glio City, Mishio Nation. When Wang Muyu teleported over, he saw a bustling street full of foreigners with blonde hair and blue eyes. He realized that Wang Ling wasn't next to him, but his aura was very close and not far away. This made Wang Muyu feel a little disappointed. He had thought that he would be able to keep up with Wang Ling more accurately so that Wang Ling could praise him. Who would have thought that he would fail at this critical moment? In fact, when it came to teleporting coordinates, there would indeed be some deviation the first few times you used the space teleportation ability. This was also very normal. Take Wang Ling for example. He had deviated several times when he was little, so it wasn't strange at all. The little guy had been with Old Man Sun for the past few days, and had been picked up and dropped off by his personal ride wherever he went. He rarely used the space teleportation ability, so it was normal that he wasn't familiar with it. When Wang Ling landed, he realized that Wang Muyu wasn't next to him. Fortunately, he hadn't actually deviated too far, and as long as he followed his aura, he would be able to catch up very quickly. In a dark alley, Wang Ling accurately tracked Wang Muyu's aura with his hands in his trouser pockets. Just as he was about to follow him, he suddenly realized that Wang Muyu had started to move in the opposite direction from him. Wang Ling instantly frowned. It seemed that someone was chasing Wang Muyu. As soon as he landed, Wang Muyu sensed that someone was watching him. At that moment, Wang Muyu's sensitive senses were infinitely magnified by that malicious intent. To prevent himself from suddenly teleporting into a crowd and being discovered, Wang Muyu had specially used his invisibility ability as a defense and only removed it when he was in a hidden position. It was just that he hadn't expected that just as he was about to meet up with Wang Ling, someone inexplicably would be watching him. Wang Muyu grit his teeth. This was the first time he had faced this kind of challenge alone. He had just failed to teleport and needed another chance to show off in front of Wang Ling so that he could be praised. Thus, the blood in the little guy's body boiled in that instant, and he didn't know whether it was out of nervousness or anticipation. The streets in foreign countries were completely different from those in China. White tiled roads and foreign-style houses outlined crisscrossing alleys. Without hesitation, Wang Muyu plunged headlong into one of the alleys, and the villain who was following closely behind him abruptly gave chase. This person's battle strength was mediocre, so Wang Muyu naturally wasn't afraid of him. However, making a public move on the street would cause a commotion, so Wang Muyu wanted to find a secluded place to lure the villain in before killing him. Chapter 1768. Two figures flew past one after another in an alley surrounded by rows of garden houses. Wang Muyu randomly picked up two pebbles from the ground, and as he retreated, he made a symbolic counterattack. He didn't use too much force, and just casually flicked the pebbles in his hand. The flying speed of the pebble was astonishing. This projectile was even more powerful than a bullet. A pebble could even seriously injure a soul formation cultivator. However, the newcomer reacted very quickly and accurately dodged the pebbles. In the end, the pebbles smashed into a tile wall with two loud booms. Two huge holes instantly appeared in the wall, and it collapsed on the spot, while the entire house looked like it was on the verge of collapse. Wang Muyu gritted his teeth. He hadn't expected his casual attack to cause such a ruckus. He was a little dragon man, not a husky. He shouldn't be the one to tear down a house, which would only cause trouble for him. At this thought, Wang Muyu had no choice but to turn back. He used the dragon strength gene of the restoration dragon to repair the broken wall, and then used the space dragon's teleportation ability to escape. Wang Muyu was about to continue his plan of luring the enemy into a trap, when the man suddenly stopped chasing him. When he turned his head, Wang Muyu saw a sly smile on that man's face. This man in a black fedora hat and a black trench coat had actually stopped in front of a certain building and then started to punch the wall with his fist. Bastard! Wang Muyu had no choice but to quickly turn around and repair the damaged building. However, the man was still relentless, and continued with the next round of destruction. Wang Muyu was well aware that this man was deliberately stalling him. Gritting his teeth, he decided not to continue luring the man over. This man was a lunatic, and he had to end this quickly, otherwise the commotion here would only get worse. As sirens gradually rang out in the distance, Wang Muyu knew that someone had probably been affected and had called the police. He had to resolve the situation in front of him as soon as possible. However, the alley in front of him was too eye-catching. If he made a move here, he would definitely be seen by many people. Even if he used spatial magic to separate the man from himself, the scene of him and the man disappearing into thin air would be recorded by the surveillance cameras nearby. Wang Muyu did not want to become famous overseas, so after weighing the pros and cons, he chose a long-range killing method. In the next second, a strange ripple was released from his pupils, gradually releasing little ripples. The man looked at Wang Muyu calmly. In the next second, he saw the two street lamps beside him twist like water snakes as if they had been given a life of their own. They suddenly wrapped around his body tightly. This was the magnetite gold dragon's giant dragon power. It allowed Wang Muyu to control all metallic objects and give them a certain amount of power, turning them into steel spirit beasts that he could control. This man clearly did not expect that the two street lamps beside him could also become a great killing weapon at this moment. They suddenly wrapped around his body tightly, causing his muscles to be squeezed together and almost instantly deformed. He could feel several tendons and blood vessels in his body being crushed, and the blockage of blood in them gradually caused him to lose consciousness. However, Wang Muyu discovered that not only was there no fear or panic on this man's face, but he was even smiling. His smile was extremely mysterious. Scarlet blood seeped out from the gaps between his teeth, and he spat it out in large mouthfuls, flowing on the ground. Something was strange. Wang Muyu frowned. He instinctively felt that something was wrong, but he just couldn't tell what it was. This man had chased him all the way and provoked him. He clearly knew that he was far weaker than him, but he still wanted to drag him into a fight. It was as if he wanted to deliberately chase after him, provoke him, and provoke him. Then, as if he wanted to kill him with his own hands, "Wang Muyu, your real father is waiting for you." Just as the man's consciousness was about to completely disappear, a strange and hollow voice came from his body. Wang Muyu wasn't sure if it was the man who had spoken, but he could see that the man's gaze on him was like that of a venomous snake, fierce and ferocious. His real father? No, what real father? His father was clearly only Wang Ling. It turned out that this guy was here to sow discord between father and son. This provoked Wang Muyu. Just as he was about to clench his fists and manipulate the magnetite gold dragon to use the steel water snakes formed from the street lamps to completely crush the man, Wang Ling flew past him. He grabbed the child by the collar and left, instantly teleporting to the bottom of a slide in a nearby park. There was a small square space there, and no one else was there at the moment. In fact, in that instant, he had done a lot of things. He hadn't just taken Wang Muyu away. He had also nullified the two steel water snakes and restored them to their original forms. At the same time, he had completely restored the nearby buildings, as well as helped that innocent foreign man, who had clearly been remotely manipulated by an evil force, recover from his injuries. Finally, he had used spirit energy waves to erase the memories of all the passers-by in the area as well as the nearby surveillance equipment. The only ones who hadn't been dealt with properly were the police who had rushed over from afar. But even if the police arrived at the scene now, it would be of no use, because the memories of those witnesses had been wiped clean, and they wouldn't be able to get anything out of them. In comparison, Wang Ling felt that the more important task at hand was to comfort Wang Muyu. This little guy was obviously frightened, and his whole body was trembling. Wang Muyu was clearly very strong, but in that battle just now, he had still seemed a little too young. He had been lacking in detail, and hadn't been able to capture that the man was in fact an innocent man who had been manipulated by an evil force from a distance, and had almost been crushed. Wang Ling felt lucky that he had arrived in time to prevent this little guy from falling into the enemy's evil plot and becoming a murderer. Looking at the trembling Wang Muyu in front of him, he didn't know how to comfort him. He had never comforted anyone before. So Wang Ling just walked over and hugged him gently. Smelling the familiar scent on Wang Ling, Wang Muyu gradually calmed down. "Dad?" Wang Muyu thought he was very strong, but what had happened just now made him feel for the first time that he was really useless. He hadn't even been able to see through the enemy's trick. Blaming himself endlessly, he buried his head in Wang Ling's shoulder and sobbed. In a split second, Wang Ling felt his shoulder become wet. Chapter 1769. Through the mind-reading ability, Wang Ling knew that the little guy was blaming himself, and it wasn't just because he had been frightened. Although Wang Muyu was very strong, his lack of combat experience was still a shortcoming, which was very difficult to accumulate in a short period of time. He had wanted to show off, but in the end he had made a fool of himself in front of Wang Ling. After crying on Wang Ling's shoulder for a while, Wang Muyu suddenly felt a deep sense of shame. He had wanted to show off and have Wang Ling praise him, but not only had he failed, he had even cried on his father's shoulder. After coming back to his senses, Wang Muyu's little face instantly turned red, and he couldn't even maintain his form as he changed back into Wang Ling's original face. He was so ashamed that he almost wanted to dig a hole and bury himself in it like an ostrich. Wang Ling looked at this face that looked like it had been carved out of a template, and he instantly began to doubt life. To be honest, he had never shed a single tear since he was a child. After all, whenever he made a move, it was always him who made people cry. Furthermore, when he faced Wang Ling, he felt that those who could cry after being beaten by him were already considered lucky. Some people didn't even have time to cry, and he even had to think of a way to clean up after them by resurrecting them on the spot. So when he saw Wang Muyu's teary eyes, it was as if he was looking at his younger self, and it was a magical feeling. "I didn't do it on purpose, I'll change back right away." Wang Muyu looked at Wang Ling nervously. Wang Ling shook his head and rubbed the little guy's head. What Wang Muyu needed to do now was relax. If he continued to change his form, it would indeed be easy for him to get nervous. Of course, the most important thing was that they were now abroad, and didn't have to worry about running into familiar people here. Thus, Wang Ling felt that there was no need for Wang Muyu to keep changing his form while they were abroad. They rested patiently at the bottom of the slide for a while until Wang Muyu had completely calmed down. Wang Ling then took Wang Muyu's little hand with the world snack coupon in hand as they headed to the large supermarket in Mishio's Glio City, Wolf. At the entrance, Wang Ling noticed a line of text scrolling on the supermarket's electronic bulletin board. "Today, no one knows crispy noodle snacks better than I do. The big gift pack of crispy noodle snacks has been sold out. Please snap it up tomorrow." As soon as this string of text appeared, Wang Ling's gaze was directly drawn to it. "No one knows better than me. Crispy noodle snack series?" Wang Ling refused to accept this, because he truly felt that there was no one in this world who understood crispy noodle snacks better than him. He was itching to buy this crispy noodle snack. He had already sent clones to carry out missions for crispy noodle snacks in other countries, but his main body had come to Mishio Nation's Glio City in person. So when he saw this string of text, a new idea suddenly sprouted in his mind. Since it was Saturday, he felt that it wasn't a bad idea to spend a night in Glio with Wang Muyu. Elsewhere, Lotus Sun very quickly received information that Wang Ling and Wang Muyu were going to spend the night in Mishio Nation's Glio City. Grenade-throwing senior immortal had told her this when he had come to discuss it with her. After all, Wang Ling and Wang Muyu didn't have any information on how to enter the country. Both of them had teleported over and couldn't find a regular hotel to stay in, so they could only ask grenade-throwing senior immortal for help. However, even though Battle Sect was expanding their business overseas, Battle Sect's business in Glio City was still at zero. AI, this blockhead, why didn't he come to me directly? After hearing the news, Lotus Sun couldn't help sighing in her heart. Currently, Battle Sect doesn't have a map of Glio City yet, so I wanted to ask Hwagwa Water Curtain Group if it's possible. Grenade-throwing senior immortal asked as he wiped at his sweat. Of course it's possible, no problem. Wang Ling and Woodenfish's business is my business. Lotus Sun laughed brightly. As expected of Hwagwa Water Curtain Group, they even have businesses in Glio City. That's not it. Holding her phone, Lotus Sun shook her head and said, Senior Immortal, you might not know, but while our Hwagwa Water Curtain Group also has business plans in Mishio Nation, our core area isn't in Glio City. It's somewhere else. Then why is Miss wrong? Although we don't have it, we can still buy it. Lotus Sun said, I'll have my grandfather buy the hotel chain over there. It'll be convenient for Wang Ling and Woodenfish to stay there. Hearing this, grenade-throwing senior immortal swallowed. Sure enough, rich people were inhumane. After the call, Lotus Sun immediately arranged for the purchase of the hotel chain. In fact, Glio City had long since been included in Hwagwa Water Curtain Group's grand strategy for future territorial expansion. It was just that the plan had been brought forward. Compared with Hwagwa Water Curtain Group's acquisition of shares in a few insignificant hotel chains, this bit of financial resources was just a drop in the bucket. Yes, Grandpa, then I'll have to trouble you. After quickly communicating with Old Man Sun, she smiled and said, Oh, by the way, Grandpa, can I trouble Brother Little Che to book me an express immortal boat ticket to Glio City? Yes, I'm leaving right away. I won't miss school, Grandpa. I'll be back by Monday. After deciding to stay the night in Glio City, Wang Ling took Wang Muyu to the nearest cafe to wait for news from grenade-throwing senior immortal about the hotel. Although Wang Ling had already chosen a very secluded corner, he still attracted a lot of attention. After all, there were blonde foreigners everywhere here, and their two Asian faces really left an impression. What a cute little brother. Are you brothers? A slightly plump woman who looked very amiable came up to Wang Ling and took the initiative to talk to him. In Mishio Nation's Glio City, these blonde foreigners all spoke in a foreign language, but Wang Ling didn't have to worry about that. Since he had the great language technique, no matter where he went, he would be able to communicate without borders. No matter how rare a foreign language was, he would be able to translate it into clear Mandarin, and the words he took the initiative to speak would also be translated into his native language and enter the minds of the people he was communicating with. But Wang Ling didn't reply, and just nodded gently. In contrast, Wang Mu appeared more lively. Wang Ling hadn't expected the little guy to also know this trick, because the little guy had the cultural dragon gene. This dragon didn't have any other abilities except for its culture, which gave Wang Muyu a learning ability that surpassed that of ordinary cultivators and other dragon descendants. He successfully used this ability to act cute, and in the end, the old woman paid the bill for Wang Ling's table. Bye-bye. Before she left, the woman left Wang Muyu a name card and invited him to visit her house if he had the time. Wang Ling really didn't know what to say about this kind of social skills. He felt that this was perhaps one of the few areas in which Wang Muyu was far better than him. A little dragon person who had condensed the essence of all the genes of the dragon clan actually relied on acting cute to make a living abroad, which made Wang Ling feel extremely emotional. Chapter 1770. After Sunny Yuan put down the phone, next to him, Steward Lin frowned slightly. He was standing very close, and Sunny Yuan had deliberately raised his voice so that Steward Lin could hear him. After hearing Lotus Sun's news, this steward, who was even more experienced than Jiang Xiaoche, couldn't help but look worried. Grandpa, I don't think this matter is appropriate. Take young Master Makujio's photo for example. There are many indications that Jiang Xiaoche is involved. On the other hand, there's that new Elder Qin from Battle Sect as a witness. Elder Qin recorded all of Jiang Xiaoche's transactions while he was pretending to be a skunk. In addition, The amount of extra income he earned by relying on intelligence also matched up. I just feel that Master shouldn't continue using him like this. Old Lin. Sun Yuan raised his hand and gestured at the height of his desk. Xiaoche has been by my side since he was young. I've never treated him as an outsider all this time. As he said this, Sun Yuan couldn't help sighing. The disappointment in his heart was self-evident. It didn't feel good for anyone to be betrayed by someone they trusted. Jiang Xiaoche wouldn't be able to escape responsibility for selling out information on the group, and there was ample evidence in many areas. At the same time, Sun Yuan was well aware that Jiang Xiaoche might have done this out of jealousy, hence, he had never cared much about Wang Ling. Furthermore, Jiang Xiaoche was also well aware that Lotus Sun liked Wang Ling. From the point of view of a rival in love, it wasn't strange for him to do something to disgust Wang Ling. Although Sun Yuan usually didn't ask about it, he was in fact well aware of his opponent's situation. After a long silence, Sun Yuan slowly opened his mouth and said in a low voice, "Old Lin, Rong and I are actually very clear about what you're saying. But I want Xiaoche to understand that it's impossible for him and Rong to be together. Master is really kind and soft-hearted, that's his last chance." Sun Yuan said, "If he still refuses to come to his senses, this old man will personally confiscate everything he has now." Steward Lin laughed bitterly. "But I don't know if Master is doing this for Miss or for that Wang brat. This is naturally for the future of my Huaguo Water Curtain group. I've already asked someone to do some divination, and classmate Wang Ling is born with the attribute of bringing prosperity to his wife. If Rong can really be with him in the end, not only will she be able to turn calamities into blessings and prolong her life, her career will also soar, as if she has divine help," said Sun Yuan. "Is this fortune teller reliable?" Butler Lin asked doubtfully. "This is very strange. I asked a dozen people and they all said the same thing. Of course, other than that, it's not like those fortune tellers haven't said anything about the things we need to be wary of." Something that needs to be guarded against? What is it? They said that if Rong and classmate Wang Ling end up together, it's very easy for her to get a lumbar disc herniation. Speaking up to this point, Sun Yuan could not help but frown deeply. "Tell me, how can a healthy cultivator suddenly have a lumbar disc protrusion? What exactly did he do to cause the lumbar disc to jump back and forth repeatedly?" Butler Lin. Elsewhere, when Jiang Xiaoche heard that Lotus Sun was going to buy an immortal boat ticket to Mishio Nation's Glio City, he quickly made arrangements for her to go abroad. This time, he didn't take the initiative to cause any trouble, because the big fuss with Tengu the last time had mainly been caused by the information he had sold. After his return, Jiang Xiaoche had been on tenterhooks for several days, and even his hair had begun to show signs of decentralization. In the end, Old Man Sun didn't seem to notice, and his attitude toward him didn't change significantly, which made Jiang Xiaoche instantly heave a huge sigh of relief. So this time, Jiang Xiaoche decided that it was better for him to be a little more honest and conservative, and absolutely couldn't cause any more trouble. Although it was said that Jiang Xiaoche had booked the immortal boat ticket, Huaguo Water Curtain Group actually had its own exclusive immortal boat. Lotus Sun's booking the ticket was just for Jiang Xiaoche to contact Mishio Nation's exit and entry administration in hopes of getting a special green route. This was Huaguo Water Curtain Group's privilege as one of the top 100 companies in the world. As long as the green route was allowed to open, everyone on the exclusive immortal boat would be treated as receiving a short-term visa for half a month. It sounded very complicated, but the truth was that Jiang Xiaoche had always been the one to communicate with them about going abroad, so it could be said that he was very familiar with the process. This time, Jiang Xiaoche swore that he absolutely hadn't done anything that violated professional ethics or betrayed the group. But somehow, Lotus Sun's trip had still been leaked to the Tengu team. Wisdom Tree, Glio City, Mishio Nation. The Tengu from all over the world had transformed into remote holographic projections and were sitting in the office for a meeting. It was still that 8-star Tengu called Lord 8, who had appeared earlier, who spoke. "We've received news that Miss Sun of Huaguo Water Curtain Group is about to go to Glio City." Go to Glio City? Many Tengu instinctively became vigilant. Could it be that they've already discovered our movements? I don't think so. Our Tengu HQ is extremely well hidden. There's no way they could have found this place just based on what happened in Duobao City last time. I'm afraid they're still here for that legendary child. Lord 8 said, all in all, the 2 pieces of information we've received so far are very reliable. Because both pieces of information were given by Dizun. Dizun, hearing this, the rest of the Tengu team were instantly enlightened. I see. Since Dizun provided the information, it can't be wrong. Dizun is really amazing. He can predict things like a god. But Lord 8, how did you get in touch with Dizun? I'm not qualified to get in touch with Dizun. It was Dizun's instructions. Under the mask, this 8-star Tengu frowned and said, actually, I've always felt that we might have more than one Dizun. What Lord 8 means is that Dizun is actually made up of many people, just like us. That's just my personal guess. Dizun can predict things like a god and come and go unpredictably. Is it something that we can easily guess? The Tengu called Lord 8 paused, then said, last time in Duobao City, we suffered a defeat. This time, Miss Sun of Huagua Water Curtain Group walked right into our trap and came to our core hinterland. Listen to my command. Those with 5 stars and above, get into action. You must complete the attack on the target in Glio City, form a tight intelligence monitoring network, and dig out all the dirt on this young lady. We can't lose this battle again. Otherwise, it will damage our reputation. Under the mask, this Lord 8 smiled. These days, whether it's the entertainment circle or the business circle, there are always more children. This is a big characteristic. I hope everyone will seize this opportunity. If we can win this battle, we might be able to destroy the Huagua Water Curtain Group and the Battle Sect in one fell swoop. Chapter 1771. Wang Ling didn't wait long in the coffee shop before a person who looked very much like grenade-throwing Senior Immortal suddenly pushed open the door and headed straight for Wang Ling's table. Although he looked like grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, Wang Ling was sure that this wasn't him, and was probably the legendary grenade-throwing city of Glio of Mishio Nation. Ever since Battle Sect had become the world's #1 sect, it had in fact started to plan for foreign territories and establish branch sections. However, each cultivation country had different histories, cultures, and systems, so it wasn't easy to set up a branch sect. For example, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had encountered a lot of obstacles in Glio of Mishio Nation. However, a sect couldn't go a day without a sect leader, and he still needed his real body to preside over the overall situation. Given this situation, if he encountered any obstacles in setting up a branch sect abroad, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal would leave behind a real clone to carry out the task in his place. Speaking of which, it was Wang Ling who had personally taught grenade-throwing Senior Immortal this ability. As sect leader, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal's work efficiency had clearly improved a lot after the emergence of all kinds of grenade-throwing city of Glio. Greetings, Ling Jinren. As soon as they met, this grenade-throwing city of Glio saluted Wang Ling telepathically. He was wearing a suit and leather shoes, which was exactly what most foreigners in Glio City thought of him. One look and anyone would know that he was an elite among human cultivators. As a typical modern metropolis in Mishio Nation that combines science, technology, and production, Glio always gave the impression that it was a place where elites gathered. It was as if the people walking on the streets were always wearing expensive suits or evening gowns, giving the impression that they had entered the SSR card pool of the human world. It wasn't until he saw grenade-throwing city of Glio's attire that Wang Ling realized what the problem was. No wonder he and Wang Mu had been low-key enough, but still attracted a lot of strange gazes. It turned out that there was something wrong with their skin. It had to be said that grenade-throwing city of Glio was very skilled at his job. He carefully ushered Wang Muyu and Diao Jinren into the car, and then quickly took out 2 complete suits from a storage container inside the car, which happened to be Wang Ling's and Wang Muyu's sizes. Ling Jinren and little brother Wooden Fish, please change into them. Ling Jinren is used to keeping a low profile, so if you wear the same clothes as the people here, you won't attract any special attention, said grenade-throwing city of Glio. Wang Ling nodded, and then used a spell to directly change clothes in one click. It was a very convenient spell, and Mayor Glio was stunned by it. Through the rearview mirror, he saw how Wang Ling and Wang Muyu looked after they changed into suits. The tailored black suits perfectly complemented Wang Ling's physique. His spotless white cotton shirt and his red tie made him look a lot more spirited and energetic. Coupled with the youthful vibe he exuded, this elite suit formed a perfect combination, like a Tai Chi disc. On the side, Wang Muyu was simply a miniature version of Wang Ling, and Mayor Glio was stupefied. After a long while, he started the car and seemed to come back to his senses as he said, sorry, this suit fits Ling Jinren and little brother Wooden Fish too well, I don't know what to say for a moment. The hotel has already been arranged, it's a hotel that our family just bought. Even if Ling Jinren and little brother Wooden Fish don't have any immigration records, we don't have to worry about being found out. The battle sect has already thought of a way to complete the relevant formalities. In that instant, Wang Ling suddenly felt very guilty. He had only wanted to buy a packet of crispy noodle snacks, but the battle sect had actually gone to such great lengths to buy a hotel for him. But when Wang Ling thought about it carefully, he suddenly felt that something wasn't right. The battle sect had invested in a lot of cultivation research projects in the last few months, which were the most expensive. On the other hand, it wasn't yet time to harvest the heavenly Dao broccoli, so where would they have the spare money to buy a hotel property abroad? He pondered for a moment and suddenly had a bad premonition. Then he opened his eyes, and the power of the king's eye directly penetrated the air to help him spy on a distant scene. Sure enough, he saw Lotus Sun boarding an immortal boat and looking like she was in a hurry to go to Glio City. Wang Ling Jinren actually doesn't need to feel burdened. Buying a hotel chain abroad is part of the company's expansion plan. Mayor Glio said, by the way, when I was at the entrance of the shop, I saw a woman talking to little brother Wooden Fish. Is Ling Jinren familiar with this person? Puzzled, Wang Ling looked at the eyes in the rearview mirror. If I'm not mistaken, this person should be a very famous variety producer in Glio City called Michelle Lavin. People call her Madame Lavin. In addition to the technology industry, the entertainment industry in Glio City is actually also very developed. Mayor Glio said, generally speaking, this Madame Lavin won't take the initiative to talk to people. If she takes the initiative to come forward like this, it means that she might already have her eyes on you and little brother Wooden Fish. A variety show? Is it one of those shows on TV where a bunch of big brothers and sisters who are very popular online are invited to make the audience laugh? Wang Muyu couldn't help asking. There are different types of variety shows, but little brother Wooden Fish is actually right. Variety shows in the cultivation world today are essentially designed to make the audience laugh. In order to compete for viewership ratings, the directors and producers of these shows will stop at nothing, Mayor Glio said. Mayor Glio replied, Madame Lavin is the producer of a large-scale reality show. According to the latest planning news, Madame Lavin is planning a parent-child show. Could it be? Where are we going, Dad? Wang Muyu asked. Mayor Glio shook his head. Not really. The news I got is that the show is called Gone, Dad. Wang Ling and Wang Muyu? This Madame Lavin is good at horror variety shows with the theme of curiosity, so she has always been very popular with the audience here, Mayor Glio said. It's said that the program of Gone, Dad is to organize several pairs of fathers and sons to go on a trip in an intimate atmosphere to improve their familial relationship. Then they will set up an accident midway. For example, there might be a sudden car accident that will turn the dad into a mosaic or something. In short, all kinds of accidents will cause the dads to be eliminated one after another. Finally, the camera will be completely focused on the children so that the audience can see their reactions. Wang Ling didn't know whether this variety show would be good or not. But Wang Ling felt that the producers who planned this kind of show were really stupid. Even if he had already been targeted by this Madame Lavin, there was no way he would take part in this kind of variety show. Besides, he only had one day to go, and he had to go back tomorrow. He still had school tasks to complete and homework to do. Chapter 1772. On the way to Dalio City, Lotus Sun sat in her family's private immortal boat and followed a specially approved green route. She had already planned everything on the immortal boat. While discussing how to spend a beautiful and fulfilling day with Wang Ling, she wouldn't arouse his disgust because she was too proactive. In the past, when faced with this kind of situation, Lotus Sun would always take the initiative to find a few acquaintances to travel with her, such as Super Chen, Hirogua, and Li Yuyue. These were already regular members of the team, and they had good judgment, knew how to do things, and most importantly, could assist her. This trip abroad was actually a little troublesome. She felt that Super Chen and the others might not be willing to go with her, but she hadn't expected that when she asked them in the group, they would actually all agree. Lotus Sun was startled on the spot. "You're even willing to go abroad? Is it the same as before with round-trip plane tickets, food and accommodation, Boss Sun?" Hirogua sent an emoji of sending roses. "Of course. I invited you, so it should be me who pays," said Lotus Sunday. "Then it's fine." Super Chen added, "Also, Chao and I have always wanted to go to Dalio City. It's the technological paradise of modern cultivation games. Although the schedule is a little tight, as long as we have this, you and Wang Ling can rest assured. Just leave it to us." Perhaps influenced by Super Chen's impassioned speech, Lotus Sun's blood also began to boil as she listened. But because she had already been checking in when she had made the invitation, she had spent a lot of money and booked another immortal boat for the three of them, which was expected to arrive in Dalio City an hour later than her. Sure enough, she couldn't do it without the help of her friends, and she would feel empty. It was like buying drinks for a boy she liked. In order to not be too obvious, she would usually buy several bottles and distribute them to the boy she wanted to give them as well as to the people around him. This way, it wouldn't look too obvious. "Miss, we'll be there in 3 hours." Steward Lin stood respectfully on the side of the immortal boat. He had been sent by Old Man Sun specifically to protect Lotus Sunday. But to be honest, Lotus Sun didn't really think it was clear who would be protecting whom. Speaking of which, Butler Lin was also an elder of the family who had watched him grow up. In terms of seniority, he was even higher than the first-level elders of the group. Back then, he followed Old Man Sun to start the business and held the original shares. Although it wasn't a lot, Butler Lin still had billions of assets. Lotus Sun knew that it was her grandfather's idea for Steward Lin to follow her. In order to reassure the elders, she naturally couldn't refuse and could only agree. "Uncle Lin, don't keep standing by my side. Why don't you lie down and rest?" Lotus Sun asked with a smile. "How can I do that? It's my duty to protect the young miss. In addition, we received quite a few threatening letters a while ago. Young Miss's safety is also what Master is most concerned about." Steward Lin said, "If we ignore these threatening letters like we did the last few times, it's very likely that we'll attract vicious people like Shadow Stream." But Shadow Stream has already been wiped out. Lotus Sun did not know whether to laugh or cry. The truth was that after Shadow Stream had disappeared, there had actually been quite a few assassins and mercenary organizations targeting her, but their overall operational capabilities were clearly not as strong as Shadow Stream's. Mistaking them for the wrong people every time gave Lotus Sun a double headache. Their realms were indeed higher than Shadow Stream's, but for some reason, their IQ had plummeted. Logically speaking, cultivators with high realms liked to fly around in the sky in a flashy manner. Once their feet left the ground, the virus would shut down, and their smart IQ would once again take the high ground. But now, these mercenaries she ran into all looked like they were suffering from brain hemorrhages. So every time this happened, Lotus Sun especially missed the days when Shadow Stream had tried to assassinate her. She wondered how those Shadow Stream sisters were doing in prison. "What are you thinking about, young miss?" Steward Lin couldn't help asking as he looked at Lotus Sun's thoughtful expression. "No, I'm just thinking about 2 old friends." Lotus Sun rubbed the space between her eyebrows and said, "Uncle Lin, do you remember the Shadow Stream sisters who were captured half a year ago?" "So young miss is thinking about them?" Steward Lin's face was indifferent. "These killers treat human life as grass, and they're never worth tolerating. Young miss, you don't need to blame yourself or even forgive them." "I'm not thinking about forgiving them." Lotus Sun shook her head and said, I just suddenly feel that the appearance of this group of people has made me grow up a lot. From an opponent's point of view, I think that this pair of sisters are of pretty high quality. Young Miss is right, Steward Lin said. They're currently being held in a women's prison, and it's said that they're doing well. But it'll probably be 100 years before they're released from prison. Have they been sentenced for that long? Not as long as the Mahjong squad in Songhai First Prison. If they're reformed well, it's possible that their sentences will be reduced. Lotus Sun nodded slightly. Actually, she really wanted to find an opportunity to see these Shadow Stream sisters, because she had always been very curious about who on earth the mastermind behind the scenes who had hired Shadow Stream to assassinate her back then was. But out of professionalism, it was said that Jiang Luiying and Jiang Luiwei hadn't sold out their clients. It was for this reason that they had been sentenced to heavier punishments in the end, otherwise they wouldn't have been imprisoned for more than 100 years each. At that moment, Lotus Sun was cupping her chin in her hands as she pondered, when she suddenly sensed a powerful killing intent coming from the sky. Boom! With a loud bang, a spirit power missile fired from who knew where accurately hit the spirit energy barrier of the immortal boat Lotus Sun was on. She was under attack. Someone was shooting at her with a missile. If it hadn't been for the spirit power barrier that had been set up around the immortal boat, the power of this missile would have been enough to destroy the boat on the spot. This clearly wasn't a mistake, but an attack that had been planned for a long time. The other party had come prepared, but everyone in the immortal boat was very calm, including the captain of the immortal boat. All the members were elite employees of the group who had been carefully selected by Sunny Yuan, and they had very strong mental fortitude and ability to react to sudden dangers. After the immortal boat had been attacked, the captain had quickly contacted the control tower to report the situation and try to land at a nearby berth. There's no need to land, head straight for Glio City. At that moment, Lotus Sun had turned on the voice call button to communicate directly with the captain. Miss, this will be dangerous. The other party is clearly targeting us. It's fine, Uncle Lin. In fact, my Shifu already anticipated this, so she gave me a magic treasure to keep close to my body so that I can deal with this danger. Mrs. Shifu? When did Miss have a Shifu? It's that legendary elder in the battle sect called Wang Meili. She took student Jiang Yingying as her disciple. So it's her, the beautiful sister that student Jiang mentioned? Steward Lin was shocked. Why didn't Miss say anything about this from the start? My Shifu likes to keep a low profile, so she told me not to mention her identity to others. I see. Steward Lin nodded. As soon as he said this, a second shell came from the flank. Without another word, she used the cover of her identity as Wang Meili to release the mysterious C's disguised sword chi in front of everyone. The moment the crimson sword chi seeped out of the ferry boat, an astonishing spiritual pressure immediately followed. With the ferry boat as the center, it began to trace the location where the missiles were launched in all directions. From an extremely far distance, it accurately grabbed the Tengu sentinel who was responsible for launching the missiles in the dark. As if it was a little chick, she had the power of the 9 cores mysterious C. Not to mention the missile. Even a nuclear bomb couldn't hurt her. Chapter 1773. The sword chi of the 9 core mysterious C was extremely powerful. Even though these 2 soul formation Tengu sentries were at the soul formation stage, they were as insignificant as 2 ants in front of Lotus Sunday. In the wisdom tree, several high-ranking Tengu members with stars on their foreheads stood tall. They were in control of the overall situation. Although they had already anticipated that Battle Sect would have a way to protect Lotus Sun, they hadn't expected them to be so strong. Capturing Lotus Sun was the main task of their plan, and in addition to this, the Tengu in the Wisdom Tree had also decided to complete their plan to split Battle Sect. What powerful sword chi! I wonder what kind of expert Battle Sect has sent. This red sword chi looks a little like the expert who went to Bountiful Treasure City to rescue that Jiang Yingying. You mean that woman called Wang Meili who wears a 9-tailed fox mask? That's right, this person is very strong. She's not even afraid of the doomsday straw Senior left us. It's fine. Let's stick to the original plan. The 8-star Tengu leader called Lord 8 waved his hand. No matter how lucky this young miss is, we'll win as long as we complete one of the 2 tasks in this battle. On the other side, Lotus Sun used the mysterious sea's disguised sword chi to accurately pinpoint the positions of the Tengu sentries and knock them out. But as they fainted, the positions of their accomplices were swiftly exposed. Lotus Sun was stunned to discover that there were more than 2 people lying in ambush below. They had only stuck their heads out to launch missiles. Apart from that, she also sensed the auras of at least 1,000 people lurking in the water around an island. Their average strength was at the soul formation stage. An army of 1,000 people at the soul formation stage. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe it as horrifying. Uncle Lin, what island is that under our immortal boat? It's the Southern Sky Islands, Steward Lin answered quickly. He was very clear about their current geographical location. This was an immortal island in the South China Sea of Huaxiao Nation. Although it wasn't large, it was rich in resources, and had been brutally invaded by Mishio Nation's Marine Immortal Spell Mobile team a few years ago. Although this group of people was later expelled, the Southern Sky Archipelago was still not peaceful in the past few years. 8 or 9 out of 10 people wanted to visit the island. Over time, under Mishio's leadership, the Southern Sky Archipelago became a controversial immortal island in the South Sea, which Mishio used as a cultivation strategy to restrain. After listening to Steward Lin's explanation, Lotus Sun frowned deeply. Uncle Lin, there are over 1,000 people hiding at the bottom of the South Sky Islands, a full regiment. Is that normal? A regiment? Did Miss sense it with Miss Wang Meili's magic treasure? That's right. The magic treasure my master gave me is very powerful. Nantian Islands are known as the maritime border and are a symbol of our Huaxiao Nation's territorial waters. As far as I know, there are less than 500 sea border troops on our island. This was because the nearby immortal warships could be mobilized at any time to provide reinforcements. They are stationed on the island every day, enduring the sun and the wind. Diving into the sea in a group like this kind of behavior, is definitely not their style. As Steward Lin spoke, he couldn't help frowning, and very quickly his forehead broke out in a cold sweat. If these cultivators hiding at the bottom of the sea weren't from the maritime border garrison, then it was very likely that they were invading enemies. The situation seemed to have become troublesome. Steward Lin never thought that they would actually run into something like this on this green route to Mishio Nation. Nantian Islands are known as the maritime border and are a symbol of our Huaxiao Nation's territorial waters. We can't just give them away, Steward Lin said. Miss, the maritime border garrison will handle this matter. It's not appropriate for us to intervene. Lotus Sun, so it's possible that this group of people isn't targeting me? Steward Lin, it's hard to say right now, but I took 2 hits, I can't take it for nothing, can I? Lotus Sun frowned and thought for a moment before saying, how about this, Uncle Lin, have the pilot raise the immortal boat a little higher, and we'll hover in the air and watch. If these people persist in going about things the wrong way, we can think of a way to support them. She had initially just wanted to get rid of those 2 Tengu bastards and reunite with Wang Ling as soon as possible, but she hadn't expected to run into this on the way. As a young person who had been educated in modern patriotism, she now had the strength to defend her country. At the same time, she was young and full of hot-bloodedness and the heroic spirit of a cultivator. Lotus Sun felt that she really couldn't sit idly by when something like this happened. Very well, miss, Steward Lin nodded. He knew Lotus Sun's personality. Once she decided to do something, he wouldn't be able to dissuade her. He could only agree for the time being and think of another way. Of course, the most important thing was to think of a way to protect Lotus Sun. While he was pondering this, he heard Lotus Sun look at him and say, Uncle Lin, protect yourself. If a fight breaks out, I'm afraid I won't be able to use the magic treasure my Shifu gave me in the immortal boat. I definitely have to go out and fight. To protect myself? Steward Lin was stunned. That's right, Uncle Lin. Just protect yourself. Otherwise, I'll have to protect you as I fight. Lotus Sun smiled. At that moment, Steward Lin was even more stunned. He had never heard of this Wang Meili. If it hadn't been for the abduction of Battle Saint's adopted daughter, he wouldn't have thought that there was such a person hidden in Battle Sect. However, there was no doubt about Wang Meili's strength. To be able to single-handedly rescue Jiang Yinging unscathed, this alone was already impressive enough. But Steward Lin was really curious about when on Earth this Wang Meili had accepted Lotus Sun as her disciple. If the young miss really fought with this group of invading enemies, what kind of performance would she have? At the same time, Wang Ling followed Thunder Glio into the hotel they were staying in. Wang Ling used his power of sight to directly switch the image in the air to the Southern Sky Islands. This was no longer peeping. He was watching in broad daylight. The main thing was that Wang Mu also wanted to watch. He could only go along with the little guy's wishes. Seeing this, Thunder Glio sighed with emotion in his heart. As expected of Ling Zhenren, he was so confident even when peeping. Even if he wasn't, he was still confident. "Is that Mom?" Wang Muyu cried out excitedly when he saw the image. Wang Ling really didn't care about her. He was just worried about Tengu's little tricks. He knew that the 1,000 soul formation cultivators lying in ambush on the Southern Sky Islands were all part of Tengu's plan, and he vaguely felt that something wasn't right. Although the 2 missiles that had attacked the immortal boat earlier hadn't succeeded, they had still attracted the attention of the sea border garrison. At that moment, a lean man with an extraordinary bearing and an azure robe stepped forward. His name was Li Weiwei, and he was the commander of the sea border garrison on the Southern Sky Islands. Standing at the very front, he used the loudest telepathic spell to shout in all directions, "Anyone who trespasses on the sea border will be killed without mercy." In that instant, his voice was so loud that it shook the surface of the sea, kicking up waves more than 10 meters high and sweeping in all directions. Chapter 1774. Li Weiwei's roar was completely out of the expectations of the hidden heavenly hounds. However, this time, they had gathered a large number of people. 1,000 soul formation cultivators were not afraid of Li Weiwei's 500-man island sea border defense regiment. The leader of the Heavenly Hounds wore a 5-star Jason mask. He was the commander of this operation and also the person with the highest cultivation level in the soul-forming stage. He was in the 9th level of the soul-forming stage. He was only half a cloth away from breaking through. "Commander Li, how have you been?" He was an old man with a walking stick. He wore a sea beast skin coat. He protruded from the bottom of the sea, but there was not a single drop of water on him. This time, all the deity transformation stage cultivators gathered here were cultivators who majored in the water element. More than half of them had water-type spiritual roots, which greatly enhanced their combat prowess in water-related environments. This was one of the reasons why the Heavenly Hounds were so fearless. "Leave now." Li Weiwei did not say anything else. He did not have a good temper when faced with enemies. As he spoke, the spiritual light on his body surged, as if he was ready to fight at any time. So unyielding. The leader of the Heavenly Hounds smiled, revealing a mouthful of yellow teeth under his mask. "I am not here today to fight Commander Li. Although we have the advantage in numbers, Commander Li is not someone to be trifled with. If we really fight, it will be a lose-lose situation. Since you know that, then get lost." Li Weiwei's tone was impatient. The Heavenly Hound pretended not to hear him and continued talking. "Actually, Commander Li also thinks that there is no need for us to fight, right? There is indeed no need to exchange our lives for the lives of our brothers in the border defense troop. Whether there is a need or not depends on your attitude." Li Weiwei was fearless. He took a step forward. "The men of the border defense troop will not allow outsiders to invade. If you want to fight, none of us here are afraid of death. Commander Li, you are too anxious. I have said that my purpose for coming here is not to fight." The Heavenly Hound elder cackled. "One last question. Commander Li, aren't you curious as to how we were able to gather 1,000 soul formation cultivators and surround this place without you noticing?" Li Weiwei frowned and did not speak. This group of people had come very strangely. They had hidden under the sea as if they had appeared out of thin air. Furthermore, during this process, they had deliberately shot 2 missiles at the immortal ship in the sky. Although they didn't manage to shoot it down, their provocative behavior was enough to show their confidence. The person sitting on the immortal warship is the eldest daughter of Huagua Water Curtain Group. This green flight route was originally prepared by Battle Sect for this young lady. Now, Huagua Water Curtain Group and Battle Sect have a cooperative relationship. The old man ignored Li Weiwei's increasingly solemn gaze and sneered. "What are you trying to say?" Li Weiwei frowned deeply. "It's very simple." The Heavenly Hound Elder spoke with confidence. "Commander Li, think about it. Why were we able to appear out of thin air near this island and lay in ambush here in advance? The reason is very simple, and that is, my Heavenly Hound people are currently in Huagua Water Curtain Group and Battle Sect." Lotus Sun was instantly dumbfounded when she heard this. Only then did she realize the Heavenly Hound's true purpose. "Lotus Sun, this bunch of people are really spouting nonsense. They actually said there are Heavenly Hound people in the group and Battle Sect. It seems that this bunch of Heavenly Hounds have appeared here to sow discord." Steward Lin also felt that the situation wasn't good. Battle Sect was developing too fast and too strong now. Although Huaxiao Alliance was partly in control of Battle Sect, as the #1 sect on Earth at the moment, the Western countries had never stopped smearing Battle Sect's name. For example, in Mishio Nation, there was a very dangerous rumor that Battle Sect's achievements were above all others, and that it was a country within a country. Now, the Heavenly Hound was using this tactic to sow discord. Steward Lin couldn't help sighing in his heart as this deepened the internal suspicions. It was likely that Battle Sect wouldn't have an easy time in the days to come. On the other side, Li Weiwei's expression was also rather unsightly when he heard this Heavenly Hound Elder's words. He couldn't completely believe what this old man said, but it was indeed possible that Heavenly Hounds existed in Huagua Water Curtain Group and Battle Sect. He had to report this important information to his superiors. As for anything else, he could only leave it to his superiors to investigate. Now, his priority was to expel all of these invading Heavenly Hounds. "What you said has nothing to do with me. All I want is for you to get the hell out of Nantian Islands." Li Weiwei snorted and stepped forward. Spirit light flickered over his body as he summoned silver armor and put it on as he directly prepared for battle. "What? I brought such valuable information to Commander Li, and you still want to make a move?" BZZT. The nearby sea and the entire Nantian Islands shook, and a terrifying spirit power seeped out of the water. It was as if a deep-sea behemoth that had been hibernating in the depths of the sea was awakening. Li Weiwei instantly became extremely vigilant. He could feel that this Heavenly Hound Elder in front of him, who was in the 9th level of soul formation, was far more powerful than this. "Those who invade my sea border will be killed without mercy." Li Weiwei was incomparably resolute. With a battle cry, all the soldiers on the island were stirred up. Everyone shared a common enemy. Their faces were filled with caution and some anger. Not a single one of them had any intention of retreating. "Commander Li, I told you earlier that our side and your side had a 50-50 chance, and you actually believed me? You're trying to hit a rock with an egg. What's the point? If you can make it back alive today, remember to convey my thanks to Battle Sect and Huagua Water Curtain Group for providing you with the information," the old man said with a smile. Rumble. At the same time, a wall of water dozens of meters tall formed behind him, covering the sky and the sun. It was shaped like the palm of the sea god, and it was terrifying beyond compare. It was completely under the old man's control. There was no need for the 1,000 soldiers behind him at all. Just the old man's power alone was enough to make people's hair stand on end. In that instant, the overwhelming spiritual pressure came crashing down. Just the power of one palm was enough to make everyone on the island feel as if they were carrying a huge mountain on their backs, unable to bear it. This spiritual pressure was too great, and many people were unable to move. "Don't even think of trapping me." Li Weiwei gritted his teeth and took a step forward. Then, he began to run forward with a kind of tyrannical and overbearing spiritual power. With every step he took, the soles of his feet sank a little. It looked like he was using brute force, but in reality, he was calm. Using his physical body to form a ball, he charged towards a certain coordinate point and finally crashed into a spirit stone. The moment the spirit stone shattered, the defensive formation on the island was also activated at the same time. In an instant, dozens of chains came from all directions around the South Sky Islands. They accurately shot towards the invading enemy. These were all immortal binding chains made from the materials of the spirit shackles. If a cultivator touched them, they would be unable to use their spiritual power. Suppress. The old man didn't care about these immortal binding chains at all. His palms gave birth to a dark blue spirit light, which contained a kind of withering power. In an instant, endless mist rose up from all around and surrounded the entire island. This method shocked Li Weiwei, because he could see that these defensive immortal binding chains were being rapidly corroded by the corrosive mist, which was filled with the smell of seawater, at a speed visible to the naked eye. Things aren't looking good. It looks like Commander Li is in trouble. Steward Lin was watching the battle from a distance through the equipment in the immortal boat. Seeing Li Weiwei in a deadlock, he became extremely anxious and hurriedly said, "Miss, stay here and don't move. I'll go down and help him." As soon as he said this, he noticed that Lotus Sun, who had been sitting next to him, was nowhere to be seen. There was an escape hatch at the end of the immortal boat. At this time, Lotus Sun had already put on the nine-tailed fox mask of Beautiful Wong and was fully armed. After taking a deep breath, she leaped off the cliff. Chapter 1775. Inside a hotel suite in Glio City, Wang Ling used the king's eye to closely observe movements in the distance. From the very beginning, he had sensed that there was something strange about this old man who was disguised as a level 9 soul formation cultivator, and his strength was far more than that. The spirit shackles and immortal binding shackles were magic treasures that Wang Ming had developed using extracts from the talisman's seals on him. They could suppress a cultivator's spirit energy and spirit power, and were essential items for law enforcement in the cultivation world. They were collectively known as sealed spirit objects. After Earth had been upgraded, the spirit shackles and immortal binding shackles had improved again, and could now suppress most cultivators on Earth. The only prerequisite was that a cultivator's battle strength far surpassed Earth's, and they could ignore the effects of the sealed spirit object. When Li Weiwei broke through the traps that had been set up on the island beforehand with his physical body, the defensive spirit sealing array was instantly activated. Dozens of immortal binding shackles moved in unison, and any cultivator on Earth would be startled at the sight of this. This was an artifact that even true immortals would be suppressed for a short period of time, and it was even more difficult for soul formation cultivators to deal with. However, the old man in front of him had directly disintegrated the seawater behind him into a withered sea mist, which instantly corroded the immortal binding shackles. Accompanied by the hazy sea mist, a demonic creature with the head of a lion and the body of a fish abruptly appeared behind the old man, giving off a dark blue spirit light. Roar! With a roar, the seawater churned, and the ground of the island collapsed on the spot and directly exploded in a terrifying manner. Wang Ling could see that this was the spirit of the old man's Dharma idol. This proved that this old man was at least at the ancestral level. He was as strong as Peng Shiren or even the monk whom Wang Ling had met before. He had summoned the wind and rain here, but hadn't used his full strength. He had just been playing around. Given the battle strength of an ancestral expert, a real fight would be like a star war, where planets were used as bowling balls. The matter with Heavenly Dog hadn't been completely sorted out yet, but an ancestral expert had already appeared. Then what realm was the real mastermind behind Heavenly Dog? Did this have something to do with Baizhe? Wang Ling cupped his chin, feeling very curious. He felt that the whole thing wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. It was all connected to the Ancient Ones, the old Japanese, and the dragon descendants that Baizhe was currently playing as the leader of the dragon clan. However, this was all in the future. He could only slowly analyze it when the matter was more in-depth. Taking the current situation as an example, the old man who had summoned a lion-headed fish body as a Dharma aspect life form was doing everything according to his plan. The goal was to create enmity between Battle Sect, Huagua Water Curtain Group and Huaxiao Alliance, thereby directly breaking them apart from the inside. Thus, Wang Ling deduced that this old man wouldn't really kill Li Weiwei, and would definitely leave him alive to pass on the message. However, the lives of the other soldiers on the island could not be guaranteed. At that moment, Wang Ling sighed in his heart. He didn't expect that there would be so many problems when he came out to exchange for a snack. A martial ancestor realm expert bullying a group of earth cultivators who were protecting the country was really a bit too much. It could be said that he did not care about martial ethics at all. Will Daddy do it? Wang Muyu looked at the image projected by the king's eye with excitement on his face. Wang Ling nodded expressionlessly. He didn't want to interfere. However, if the other party went too far, he would intervene in the end. But now, it seemed that someone had beaten him to it. As the commander of the Border Defense Regiment of the Sea Region Garrison, the moment Li Weiwei saw the sealed spirit item destroyed, he already knew that the old man in front of him had extraordinary strength, and was far from being an expert that Li Weiwei could contend with. Even though Li Weiwei was already close to his physical limit and was breaking out in a cold sweat due to fear, Li Weiwei still didn't take a step back. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the distance, several self-defense spirit power missiles fired by the Immortal Arts Mobile Squadron came flying in from afar. The moment Li Weiwei had activated the Southern Sky Archipelago's positional array, the Immortal Arts Mobile Squadron had already received the reinforcement signal, and they immediately aimed their cannons at the enemy. The missiles were extremely fast, moving at dozens of times the speed of sound as they aimed at the old man and the Tengu troops behind him. You're using this kind of scrap metal to deal with this old man? Aren't you looking down on me a little too much? The old man stepped forward without any defensive stance at all, and spread out the sea mist to surround himself and the entire Tengu troop. Just as several missiles approached, the sea mist seemed to be endowed with intelligence and instantly surrounded them. In an instant, the missiles were disintegrated by the mist and turned into withered bullets. I have the withered sea mist protecting me. Even meteorites can't get close to me, let alone your missiles. He sneered. Even though he couldn't see the old man's face, Li Weiwei could feel the arrogance and savagery under the mask. This was no longer an enemy that could be dealt with through normal means. The other party's combat strength exceeded the dimensional level and was so powerful that it was hair-raising. It was even possible that he wasn't an earthling. For a moment, Li Weiwei's mind was filled with thoughts as he thought about all sorts of possibilities. The other soldiers on the island also gasped. All of them were holding on. Even though they weren't afraid of death, it was still difficult to avoid physical fear. The pressure that the old man exuded was too strong. It was as if he was a figure from another universe and another world. Just standing in front of him without moving made their bodies stiffen. It was as if they had been cast with some kind of immobilization spell, unable to move a single step. At the same time, they knew very well that the old man definitely hadn't used his true strength. He was just playing around. Swoosh. At that moment, another ear-piercing sound of something tearing through the air came from the sky. The old man was completely used to it. I've said it before. You pieces of scrap metal are useless. He had his hands behind his back and was proud and aloof. He didn't care about the missiles that were shot at him at all. He puffed out his chest, looking like he was ready to face the attack head-on. This was a kind of conceit that was revealed because he had enough confidence in his own strength. He didn't believe that anything could really hurt him. So what if Earth had already been upgraded? The strength of these cultivators on Earth would still be unable to reach the level of the God realm in a short period of time. Even if he took 10,000 steps back, even if it was really those cultivators from the God realm, he could still sweep them away. Thus he laughed loudly. Come on, let me see what other tricks you have up your sleeves. Then, there was a bang. A figure, to be exact, a figure emitting red sword chi, dragged a ferocious spiritual light and accurately hit the back of the old man's waist with his head. The old man's face immediately contorted, and several of his front teeth broke. With a cry, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. At that moment, Li Weiwei and the soldiers behind him all revealed horrified looks. What did they see? A woman wearing a nine-tailed fox mask, directly smashing the old man's defense with her head. Chapter 1776. This strike that descended from the sky carried the 9-nucleus mysterious C's sword chi in disguise. It was like a meteor striking the back of the old man's waist, causing the old man to feel a huge impact on his internal organs. He was known as the Sea Demon Layman among the Ancient Ones. Although he had come to help, he hadn't expected that there would be another expert whose strength surpassed that of Earth. So there's an expert here. The old man called the Sea Demon Layman wiped the blue blood from the corner of his mouth. He hadn't been prepared for that attack, but fortunately, he had the protection of his Dharma idol. Although his injuries looked serious, it wasn't difficult for him to recover. He stared at the mysterious woman wearing the 9-tailed fox mask descending from the sky, a rare look of excitement on his face. He was famous for his obsession with martial arts, and in his opinion, the cultivators on Earth couldn't withstand a single blow. Fighting this group of people was like fighting the moon against ants, but now, the appearance of this mysterious woman had completely piqued his curiosity. "Senior, this is the Wang Meili mentioned in the intelligence report," a member of the Tengu echoed. "So it's her." The Sea Demon Layman nodded slightly. Before today's operation, he had heard that the battle sect had a peerless expert called Wang Meili, but he hadn't expected to meet her so soon. According to the instructions given to him by his employer, if he met this Wang Meili, he could disregard the rules and execute her on the spot. He was a real sea demon, invincible as long as there was a sea. Buzz. The next second, Lotus Sun sensed that the old man's Dharma idol with a lion's head and a fish's tail had become terrifying. It instantly swelled up and became even taller, like a mountain, giving off an oppressive feeling. At the same time, a demonic sound rang out from all directions, carrying with it an incomparably complex sound of the great Tao that was difficult to understand. By the time Lotus Sun came back to her senses, her surroundings had changed. Li Weiwei's troops and the Tengu that the Sea Demon Layman had brought had all disappeared. All that was left was the roar of a sea demon, and the purple seawater that constantly lapped at the shore. Even the sky had been dyed purple. The inner world? This wasn't the first time Lotus Sun had entered someone else's inner world, and she quickly realized that the Sea Demon Layman had already set up a battlefield and was planning to display his skills here. His aura was very strong, more than 100 times stronger than before. His entire body exuded a kind of demonic feeling. He was releasing spiritual pressure on Lotus Sun on purpose. Apart from intimidating her, he was also probing her foundation. When the Siren householder found that his probing did not work at all, he was stunned. "You can still move in my inner world. Tell me your name." As an ancient being, an insufferably arrogant existence that looked down on the world, how many people on Earth could withstand such spiritual pressure? It was impossible for an ordinary cultivator from Earth to do this. Thus, Layman Siren was certain that Wang Meili was also an immemorial being. "What benefits did the person behind you offer you?" Lotus Sun held the disguised red mysterious sea in her hand. She was in no hurry to act, and instinctively wanted to extract some information. The Sea Demon Layman looked at Lotus Sun's sword and guessed at her identity. A swordsman wielding a red sword. He immediately thought of someone in his mind. "So it's you?" Looking at Lotus Sun, the Sea Demon Layman took off his mask to reveal an aged face with sagging skin and an expression that said he already knew everything. "Even if you don't take off your mask, I know it's you, Blood Lotus Female Butcher." Blood Lotus Female Butcher? Under the mask, Lotus Sun was a little dazed. It wasn't just her, even Wang Ling, who was watching the battle from afar, was a little dazed. That was because most of the immemorial beings were trapped in the Supreme Corpse winding painting. This Blood Lotus Female Butcher whom the Sea Demon Layman had mentioned was indeed someone who wielded a red sword and was a swordsman expert. It was just that this Blood Lotus Female Butcher was currently trapped in his Supreme Corpse winding painting. Wang Ling never thought that this Sea Demon Layman would actually make up the story in his mind during his duel with Lotus Sunday. "You've got the wrong person, I'm not." Lotus Sun naturally denied this identity right away. Blood Lotus Female Butcher. This name was really too unpleasant to the ears, and she couldn't accept it. No one can pretend in front of me. Although I've never seen you before, I'm sure you're this Blood Lotus female butcher. Back then, I wanted to avenge my brother, so I looked for you for a long time. I didn't expect you to disguise yourself as Wang Meili and join a tiny sect on Earth. The sea demon layman sneered. Just as well. Today, I'll get my revenge. I'll kill you with my own hands to avenge my dead brother. I'll say it again, I'm really not the Blood Lotus female butcher. The Blood Lotus female butcher likes to attack people's kidneys, especially men's. No matter how hard a holy body is, it can be pierced with one sword. The sea demon layman laughed. My brother died at your hands. Don't even think about leaving this place today. At this point, the old man's expression was completely crazed. He attacked. Rip. In the blink of an eye, a slit opened up on his belly, and a timeless iron anchor shot out from his body, soaring into the sky. In the distance, Wang Muyu was so nervous that he gripped the corner of Wang Ling's clothes. This ancient ship anchor was so fast that it distorted the air and distorted everything as it shot through the air. It was as fast as lightning, moving at an incomprehensible speed. This wasn't a magic artifact, but an organ refined from the old man's body. The sea demon layman was one of the strongest demons among the ancient ones. Wang Ling had just received information from Li Xian and Zhang Zizi. Both of them claimed that this sea demon layman had a strange way of doing things, and was a maverick existence among the ancient ones. But there was one thing that was very strange, and that was that it was basically impossible for such a maverick person to become anyone's subordinate, let alone be employed. So now, even Wang Ling was very curious as to what benefit the person behind the sea demon layman had given him. This ancient ship anchor was full of murderous intent as it tore through the air and targeted Lotus Sunday. It looked cumbersome, but in fact it had a mind of its own. Ordinary evasion wouldn't work, because the anchor could automatically turn and lock onto the enemy. Even with the 9 cores mysterious sea, Lotus Sun didn't dare be careless. Although she had been through several battles, there was no way she could surpass these ancient ones in terms of combat experience in a short period of time. At that moment, her dress fluttered as 3 streams of red sword chi disguised as the mysterious sea appeared around her body. She moved solemnly as she aimed at the anchor, ready to attack. In the end, before the anchor could even touch her body, it was neatly cut into tens of thousands of tofu pieces by the sword chi lingering around her body. Chapter 1777. Sure enough, the Blood Lotus female butcher had outstanding strength and couldn't be compared to ordinary trash. Seeing his anchor cut to pieces, the sea demon householder's face was a little unsightly, but he didn't show the slightest fear. He had already anticipated the strength of this Blood Lotus female butcher in front of him, but he hadn't expected her to be able to so neatly cut up the magic weapon he had refined from his organs. But it was useless to just cut up one of his organs, because his organs had a regenerative mechanism. Unless they were all destroyed at the same time, they could continuously regrow. Is this anchor connected to the chain formed from his intestines and stomach energy? Mayor Glio asked with a frown. I forgot to mention one. Wang Muyu could also see it. He had been worried whether she could beat the sea demon householder, but when he saw how skillful she was, he immediately relaxed. Forgot to mention one? Mayor Glio looked puzzled. It's a stomach stone, Wang Muyu answered seriously. Stomach stones. The astonishment on Mayor Glio's face didn't diminish. He couldn't believe that the ancient cultivators would be so insane as to refine stomach stones into their own magic weapons. But when he thought about it carefully, he felt that it wasn't strange for the ancient ones to come up with this idea. This was because those who could stand in the ranks of the immemorial ones and become one of them, as the earliest batch of cultivators in the universe, almost all of the immemorial ones had reached the sage body stage. Since they had reached the sage body stage, stomach stones wouldn't be called stomach stones. Instead, they were a type of holy stone. It was a very special substance that grew in the stomach. In fact, Li Xian and Zhang Zizi had previously told him that many ancient cultivators were eager to grow more holy stones in their bodies. This was because the formation of holy stones was very complicated, and they were one of the rare materials used to refine weapons. They could be taken out for personal use or sold, and had a certain market value in ancient times. It was just that it was rare to see someone like the sea demon householder, who could directly refine his own holy stones and organs into a magic weapon. The sea, which was shrouded in purple spirit light, was filled with a murderous aura. Lotus Sun was waiting to finish the first round, but her opponent was an eternal one. Even if she was lucky enough to use her sword chi to cut the anchor into tofu in the first round, she still couldn't let her guard down. Lotus Sun's lack of combat experience had made her a little unconfident, which was why she didn't dare to be careless. There was nothing wrong with being cautious. A wave of purple tide surged from all around, as if it was a kind of power originating from the deep sea. Accompanied by the steaming mist, it turned into shadows in all directions. Boom! Not long after, the inner world began to shake, and Lotus Sun saw terrifying giant purple tails lapping at the surface of the sea. It was the whale's giant tail, which was as big as a hill. When it hit the surface of the sea, it created thousands of layers of waves. This was not an illusion, but the purple whale summoned by the Siren householder. It didn't seem to have anything to do with the way the Siren householder used his organs to refine magic weapons, but Wang Ling could see that the Siren householder had been raising these purple whales in his kidney all this time. The kidney was water. If it was used by an ancient being like the Siren householder, his kidney could become a vast ocean, and he could cultivate this ocean into his own golden fishing ground, where he could use it to rear some special creatures. Boom! Lightning erupted over a large area, and the purple lightning created a huge pillar of lightning on the surface of the sea, which spread out in all directions like a dense spiderweb. This was a blue sea chaos thunder whale, a type of divine beast born from chaos. It was just that it was growing, and the number of creatures it could summon at the same time was so large that Wang Ling, who was watching the battle, was a little surprised. It looked like the Siren householder was an out-and-out professional fish farmer. He could actually raise so many divine beasts of chaos in his kidney and summon them all at the same time in the space of a breath. In terms of overall battle strength, Wang Ling felt that this Siren householder was even stronger than Li Xian and Zhang Zidong. Roar! The blue sea chaos thunder whale was too ferocious. Swinging its giant tail, it stirred up waves and lightning on the surface of the sea. Then, it abruptly leaped out of the sea and soared into the air. Its metacercari were dozens of feet tall, and a large expanse of lightning swept toward Lotus Sunday. Everything in its path was smashed into scorched earth. Its ferocious killing intent couldn't be described as anything but savage. Without saying a word, Lotus Sun used her mind to activate Mysterious Sea. In that instant, Mysterious Sea's disguised red sword chi covered every part of Lotus Sun's body, and it blossomed like the fire of the sun. A huge red lotus rose under her feet and slowly lifted her into the sky. At this moment, with the red lotus armor on her body, the young girl was reborn, and she looked completely new. Red Lotus Martial Goddess? The Siren householder's expression was extremely unsightly. Although he had already expected that this blood lotus female slaughterer would be a very troublesome eternal one, he didn't think that he couldn't beat her in battle. It wasn't until that moment that he seemed to realize the seriousness of the problem. This was the new form that Mysterious Sea's disguised red sword chi had given Lotus Sunday. Even she herself hadn't expected that she would actually obtain a brand new skin. Previously, when she had become one with Mysterious Sea, she had already obtained the blue sea tide fairy dress skin form and the 9 nuclear motorbike skin form. Lotus Sun hadn't expected herself to change again today. At that moment, she floated in the sky, and the red lotus under her feet blossomed with infinite magical splendor. With a hum, Lotus Sun slashed out with her sword, and wherever the red sword chi passed, the entire space in the core world began to collapse. As it tottered on the verge of collapse, countless cracks appeared. At the same time, a large amount of blood splashed out, and these terrifying beasts tumbling in the sea were all cut in two, becoming fish heads with chopped peppers. My blue sea chaos thunder whale. The Siren householder found it hard to imagine that the blood lotus female slaughterer could be so powerful. With just one slash of her sword, she had cut the 12 blue sea chaos thunder whales that he had raised in captivity into 2 halves. Lotus Sun didn't directly attack the siren householder. She could feel the power surging in her hand, so she was very cautious in controlling her strength and didn't want to directly kill the siren householder. This person definitely knew a lot of secrets, and if she could help Wang Ling capture him alive, she might be able to learn a lot of information. Thus, she manipulated the sword chi to attack the core world. The moment the sword chi penetrated the blue sea chaos thunder whales and invaded the core world, creating a large number of cracks, the siren householder's face immediately turned deathly white, and he fell to his knees. His expression changed on the spot. The power of one slash of Lotus Sun's mysterious sea red lotus sword chi had shaken his core world to pieces. Chapter 1778. Red Lotus shocks the world. Who will rise and fall? Lotus Sun's sword cut through the inner world, and she was instantly surrounded by endless flames with blazing light and heat, dazzling and intimidating. Scholar Siren's expression changed on the spot. He would never have guessed that this was the formless sword chi, which Mysterious Sea had combined with the passive ability of man and sword as one. It was an illusion, but it felt incomparably real. Thus, formless sword chi was also known as a sword that was both real and illusory. Unable to see through this, Scholar Siren was even more certain that Lotus Sun was the legendary Blood Lotus Slaughterer. The Blood Lotus Slaughterer's main cultivation was fire magic, and she was also a sword Dao expert with a fire spirit root. Apart from the Blood Lotus Slaughterer, which other female sword Dao expert among the Ancient Ones could reach this level? For a moment, the siren householder was terrified and thought of many things at the same time. Back then, the Blood Lotus female butcher was no match for him. Now, not only had he joined the battle sect and changed his identity as Beauty Wang, he had also successfully established himself on Earth as an ordinary Earth cultivator. How could the people of Battle Sect not sense such a powerful person's presence? Scholar Siren pondered this in his heart. After thinking it over, he suddenly came up with an extremely frightening answer. There was a possibility that Battle Sect wasn't made up of regular Earth cultivators at all. Perhaps the core members were all primordial ones. As for Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, that famous, great death-courting senior on Earth, he was just using this identity as a cover. As the sect leader, Buddhist Sea Demon believed that his identity as the Eternal One was already fully established. Ancient Ones had always been proud and aloof. How could they agree to let someone weaker than them become sect leader and lower themselves to work for them? This Blood Lotus Slaughterer was so strong, but in Battle Sect, she was just an elder called Wang Meili. Then, who among the Ancient Ones were the other core members of Battle Sect? At this thought, cold sweat trickled down Scholar Siren's cheeks. When he thought of this frightening possibility, he instantly felt that everything made sense. No wonder Battle Sect had been able to become the only super sect to surpass all the sky-level sects on Earth in one fell swoop. No wonder Battle Sect could take the lead in negotiating with Divine Dao Star, communicate with those extraterrestrial visitors, and establish normal diplomatic relations. So the root cause was, it was very likely that the core members behind the Battle Sect were a group of primordial ones. Are you still thinking about other things during the battle? Lotus Sun's voice was cold as she stared at the crumbling inner world and the sea demon householder, who was vomiting blood due to the backlash from the inner world's collapse. She was neither too fast nor too slow. She was checking on the siren householder's current injuries to ensure that her next blow would not kill him. It was necessary to keep them alive. This was because Lotus Sun felt that Householder Sea Demon definitely knew a lot of things. Perhaps there was someone even more powerful manipulating things from behind the scenes. Buzz. The red lotus sword chi swept out, piercing through the air and lighting up the sky. The siren stared at the pale face and took out a glazed metal shield from his body. The sword chi landed on the metal shield and exploded with a blinding light. Cracks instantly appeared on its surface. This was the siren householder Sea Demon's liver. As a liver emperor among cultivators back then, he had stayed up all night cultivating and tempering his liver, refining it into this indestructible metal shield. For 10,000 years, who knew how many fatal attacks it had withstood for him without suffering any damage? Who would have thought that this battle with this Blood Lotus female slaughterer would actually tear his liver apart? Pooh! The Siren householder sea demon vomited a mouthful of blood, and his hands spasmed as he held the shield. Lotus Sun's sword chi was too strong, and had penetrated through the shield. Even though the Liver Emperor shield had blocked most of it, the remaining power was still enough to make the Siren householder's sea demon suffer. If it wasn't for the Liver Emperor shield, the Siren householder's sea demon felt that that blow just now would have been enough to kill him, and he would have been cut to pieces by the sword chi. The next second, he stepped back at top speed and decisively fled the scene. The inner world shattered on the spot like a broken mirror. The purple seawater turned back to its original blue, and Commander Li Weiwei's garrison troops and the Tengu army reappeared. The Siren householder's sea demon abandoned his armor and transformed into a fish that swam through the sea. By the time Lotus Sun reacted, her aura was already far away. "Commander Li, I'm beautiful Wang of the Battle Sect. I've come to help you." After leaving the inner world, Lotus Sun immediately revealed her identity to Li Weiwei. Without another word, she controlled the seawater to freeze the Tengu army in front of her. Then, she transformed into a stream of light and jumped into the sea to chase after the Siren householder's sea demon. This time, the Siren householder's sea demon was truly frightened. He had clearly slipped far away, but he hadn't expected the Blood Lotus female slaughterer, who specialized in fire magic, to be faster than him underwater. Were people so unconventional these days? "You're a fire magic cultivator, how can you swim faster than me?" When Lotus Sun's figure gradually approached him, the Siren householder's sea demon's face turned pale with fright, and his heart trembled. The Blood Lotus female slaughterer was too strong, far stronger than he had imagined. What kind of resources did those ancient beings in the battle sect eat to reach this level? He found it inconceivable, and frantically swung his fishtail with all his might. Lotus Sun pursued relentlessly, and for a moment, 2 long lines of water were dragged through the surface of the sea, one in front and one behind, like 2 water dragons. This woman was too terrifying. The Siren householder's sea demon didn't dare believe it. Back then, he had clearly suppressed her, but not only had she broken his inner world with 1 sword strike, she had also pursued him relentlessly and put him in such a difficult position. Gritting his teeth, he swore to himself that he would take revenge in this battle, and that he would make this Blood Lotus female slaughterer and those people from the battle sect pay double. But this was on the premise that he had to survive and bring back the information. He couldn't allow himself to be caught. To Lotus Sun's surprise, under his relentless pursuit, the Siren householder's sea demon finally gave up and didn't take another step forward. The Siren householder's sea demon cut open his stomach, took out his heart, and held it in his hand. "I won't let you catch me. This old man is ruthless. You're still too inexperienced, little doll." As soon as he said this, the Siren householder's sea demon immediately squeezed his hand and burst his heart like a balloon in front of Lotus Sunday. He hid. Looking at the blood-soaked seawater, Lotus Sun was stunned. She had wanted to catch him alive, but hadn't expected the Siren householder's sea demon to die. For a moment, she blamed herself. On the other side, Wang Ling withdrew his gaze when he saw the heroic scene of the Siren householder's sea demon committing suicide. Glio Finlay was stupefied. "He died just like that? That's impossible, right?" Wang Ying's voice came from the side. He showed himself and leaned against the wall with his arms crossed as he sneered. "How can it be so easy for an ancient being to die?" Glio Finlay, "That's true. This type of almighty most likely has a way to resurrect." Wang Ying, "It's not really a way, it's just a special privilege left behind by Dao ancestor Wang. Have you forgotten the forsaken land of the gods and that Qingtong cat in it?" Hearing this, Glio Finlay was suddenly enlightened and instantly understood what Wang Ying meant. "I get it. President Ying, you mean that the other party deliberately committed suicide to actually enter the forsaken land of the gods and get rid of his pursuers?" "That's right, that's a special place for Dao gods and above. They can choose a place to be resurrected at the cost of their own cultivation. It's like a lizard cutting off its tail to protect itself. After saying this, Wang Ying couldn't help curling his lips. It's just that he probably didn't expect that the bronze cat in the forsaken land of the gods is also on our side. Ha! Isn't that walking right into a trap? Glyophenle laughed. So I went to the forsaken land of the gods just now to greet that bronze cat. Wang Ying said, I wanted to resurrect this siren householder's sea demon according to the rules, and see where he will choose to be resurrected. Glyophenle, is this fishing? Wang Ying nodded. Of course it's fishing. Also, this is Lord Ling's intention. Chapter 1779. After smoothly completing the transaction with Bronze Cat, Buddhist Siren was randomly reborn in a corner of Earth, and he quickly fled the planet in the direction of the Milky Way. He had calculated that his rebirth point might be captured, so he had chosen this more roundabout method. He had initially planned to split Battle Sect and Huaxiao Alliance. As long as he wiped out the hundreds of troops stationed on the island, it would create the false impression that there was a mole in Battle Sect and make the other side suspicious of each other, which could lead to a split. But he had never expected that his plan would fail at the hands of that Blood Lotus female butcher, and that he had discovered something even more important than splitting Battle Sect. That was, it was very likely that all the core members of Battle Sect were hidden immortals. After flying in space for a long time, a speck of light arrived from a distance. In the end, it transformed into a mysterious man in a golden robe whose face couldn't be seen clearly in front of Buddhist Siren. His face was a golden vortex that was as deep as the Milky Way in the universe, and when you looked into his eyes, you would feel like you were in a trance. When he passed through the universe, a terrifying fluctuation came from the nearby deep starry sky with every step he took, causing the surrounding stars to tremble and fall. The space in all directions was constantly trembling and cracking, bringing with it an extremely oppressive feeling. Buddhist Siren quickly averted his gaze and didn't dare meet the other's eyes. He only bowed respectfully and looked at the person's toes as he said, Lord Holy Venerable, this old man has truly let down His Highness Holy King in this battle. After saying that, he was about to kneel down and kowtow, but was stopped by a force. Then, a hollow, ethereal voice rang out in Buddhist Siren's mind. Mr. Siren, there's no need to do this. His Highness Holy King doesn't blame you. Also, you did a good job testing him this time. Without a sound, Buddhist Siren felt a gentle power surge between his eyebrows. It turned out that this mysterious person called Holy Venerable had stretched out his index finger and lightly touched Buddhist Siren's forehead. This is... Buddhist Siren couldn't believe it. A brand new power had surged out of his body and was being generated continuously. In a flash, the cultivation he had lost in the forsaken land of the gods when he had traded with Bronze Cat was instantly restored. Not only that, he felt that he was stronger than before. This power... Thank you, Lord Holy King. He was very excited and cupped his fists. My lord, if I were to go there again, I would definitely be able to capture the Blood Lotus Slaughterer. This is a gift from the Holy King. You don't have to worry about it and be anxious to make a contribution. Everything is going according to His Highness the Sacred King's plan, said the mysterious man. He stood in front of Householder's sea demon, and his power alone seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and earth. This kind of power seemed to represent the origin of the universe. However, such a person was only a servant under the Holy King. Then how strong was a Saint King? The sea demon layman was surprised. He had always wanted to see the Holy King's true appearance with his own eyes, but unfortunately, he never had the chance. He had lost 300 lifetimes of cultivation in the forsaken land of the gods, but the other party was able to restore him in a single breath. It was hard to imagine exactly how strong he was. After a moment of silence, the sea demon layman asked, Then, Holy King, do you have any new arrangements? His Highness the Sacred King has already thought of a way, said the Holy King's servant. The Saint Venerable servant said, Since these people are hiding on Earth as the primordial ones, they are naturally bound by Earth's laws. The most important thing for a sect to operate is money. I understand. I'll listen to His Highness the Sacred King. At the same time, Wang Ling and the others in the hotel saw this scene. They had to admit that the sea demon layman was a smart person. He had anticipated that he might be tracked, so he had randomly chosen a resurrection point before taking action. Unfortunately, he was blocked by the servant of the Lord, who had a golden swirl on his face, when he was halfway there. After Wang Ling withdrew his gaze, Wang Ying was in a particularly bad mood. Where did this group of people come from? Wang Ying frowned. He didn't have Wang Ling's king's eye, and given his battle strength, he actually couldn't see through this face blocked by the golden vortex. What a pity, we were so close to finding their lair, said Mayor Glio. Fortunately, it wasn't like we didn't gain anything, at least we know what their next move is. Looking at the current situation, the biggest manipulator behind the Heavenly Hound is this Holy King. He's far away in the Milky Way, but he's controlling what's happening on Earth. Now they're talking about money. I'm afraid their next move is to manipulate Tengu and try to fight a money war with us. But hasn't Uncle Grenade Throwing always relied on Heavenly Dao Broccoli to make money? Do they want to boycott broccoli? Wang Muyu mumbled on the side, acting like a little adult. Silly child, if they want to deal a huge blow to their assets in the short term, I'm afraid targeting specialty industries won't be enough. Mayor Glio rubbed Wang Muyu's little head. What I'm worried about now is that they'll target spirit stones. As the main raw material for producing immortal gold, spirit stones had always been the focus of various cultivation countries. Of course, as one of the largest natural resources on Earth, every country had a certain amount of natural spirit stones in reserve. In fact, in order to promote environmental protection, the spirit stones used to produce immortal gold were all artificially developed. The method of development was also very simple. As long as spirit energy was injected into a specific machine, artificial spirit stones could be produced. Of course, to produce an artificial spirit stone weighing 1 kilogram, at least 1,000 cultivators at or above the golden core stage had to continuously inject spirit energy into it for an hour, and then repeatedly purify it before it could reach a standard. If Tengu could monopolize the spirit stone market by purchasing external spirit stones, then the cost of producing immortal gold outside would rise, and the value would be even lower than before. As one of the main currencies in the cultivation world, once the value of immortal gold fell, it would mean that many sects that relied on immortal gold to set up their businesses would be under great threat. As for the war sect, it was within range. Of course, Ling Jinren, President Ying, this is just my personal speculation. We don't know the specifics yet. It's just that I think we should be on guard as soon as possible. It won't be easy to guard against them. It's not easy to produce artificial spirit stones, mainly because it's hard for cultivators to inject spirit energy into them on a large scale. Wang Ying smiled and said, but if we have a human-shaped money printing machine, it'll be different. President Ying, you mean? At that moment, everyone's gazes were focused on Wang Ling. Wang Ying, have Lord Ling produce artificial spirit stones, and we'll produce as many as they buy. Look at what happens next, and see if they lose out or if we lose out. Chapter 1780. After helping Li Weiwei out of trouble, Lotus Sun quickly returned to her immortal boat. Steward Lin was already completely dumbfounded. Although he hadn't seen the exact details of the battle, he only knew that Lotus Sun and the Sea Demon Scholar had been sucked into an alternate space at the start of the fight. Then, after a few minutes, Lotus Sun and the Sea Demon Scholar both reappeared. And then, there was no then. Steward Lin watched as Lotus Sun dove into the sea and began to chase that sea demon householder relentlessly. What had he seen? A Foundation establishment cultivator chasing after an expert with extraordinary battle prowess whose realm he didn't know, and directly forcing him to commit suicide. Even if it was a counterattack, it had to be done according to the basic rules. Miss, I hope Uncle Lin can keep today's matter a secret for me. Lotus Sun stuck out her tongue and tried to act cute. It's not that I'm strong, it's that Shifu's spirit sword is strong. Basically, once I hold the spirit sword, I'm possessed by Shifu's divine power, and the rest of the battle is actually controlled by Shifu's spirit sword. So that's how it is. Steward Lin nodded. He didn't doubt Lotus Sun's words at all. He had watched her grow up and knew that lying wasn't in her character. Moreover, this was indeed the only reasonable explanation for why a Foundation establishment cultivator could chase after an expert who was so much stronger than her. As for the sword spirit possession that Lotus Sun spoke of, although Steward Lin hadn't experienced it himself, it wasn't hard to understand. To put it bluntly, this was the legendary substitution attack. Miss, it's our Sun family's great fortune to be able to take such a strong person as Shifu this time. Steward Lin bowed with his hands in front and said respectfully, "But miss, I have one last question. Ask away, Uncle Lin." Why didn't Miss tell Master about this? Because Shifu has always been used to keeping a low profile. Lotus Sun tried to put on a smile as she said, "This time, she took me in as a disciple behind closed doors. She just didn't want to announce it to the public. Moreover, what Shifu hates the most is politeness. If Grandpa found out about this and arranged for someone to send a bunch of gifts, I'm afraid it would cause Shifu trouble. What's more, Shifu doesn't care about worldly things and is a woman who regards money as dirt." "Oh, I see." Butler Lin also laughed. As expected of the young miss, the people you like are all low-key people. Hearing this, Lotus Sun immediately turned her head away and looked out the window. "I'm going to Glio this time, to see the wooden fish, not for him." Faced with this obvious quibble, Butler Lin continued to smile without saying a word. "I discovered a problem. What? I found that good friends seem to be contagious. I don't know why, but ever since Miss became friends with Miss Ryoko Kumiya of the Kumiya family, I always feel that the words that young Miss say are somewhat duplicitous." Lotus Sun realized that she could no longer continue the conversation. She could only blame old Lin for knowing her too well. But it didn't matter. As long as Elder Lin didn't tell anyone about Wang Meili, everything would be fine. She wasn't sure how long she could keep it a secret. He even thought about erasing Elder Lin's memory. However, after careful consideration, she felt that it would be better to have a trustworthy half-insider in the Sun family. And Butler Lin was in fact a very good candidate. The immortal boat swept through the clouds high in the sky. Just as it was about to reach Glio, Lotus Sun suddenly heard old Lin say something to her, as if to reassure her. "Thank you, young miss, for telling me these things. Please rest assured, I definitely won't tell anyone about Madame Wang Meili. Since young miss is willing to tell me, you must trust me very much. But I also need to remind young miss that not everyone in our group is trustworthy." "I understand." Lotus Sun nodded. "Uncle Lin, don't keep me in suspense. This is no different from directly naming someone. You're talking about Jiang Xiaoche, right?" "Yes." Butler Lin nodded and said bluntly, "Master has already investigated the matter of young Master Wooden Fish being leaked this time, and it's definitely related to him. But, considering our old friendship, he didn't directly punish him." "But," Lotus Sun sighed. "Jiang Xiaoche, he's actually a bit stupid. He falls into traps too easily and is used by others. I don't think he's particularly bad. He underestimated the danger of Tengu and his gang." Butler Lin nodded. This time, young Mrs. whereabouts were leaked, and some employees in the group also reported that he was the one who leaked the information. Lotus Sun, going against the wind and committing crimes isn't Jiang Xiaoche's style, but after all, he was the one who planned my trip abroad this time. Encountering Tengu's ambush on the road definitely has something to do with him. Young Miss is right. There are also many people in the group who covet his position as Secretary General. According to the original plan, this trip abroad should also have been accompanied by the Secretary General. Butler Lin said, "But in the end, Master still chose me to protect young Mississippi. This is actually a hint. I just hope he won't continue being so muddle-headed in the future." Uncle Lin is right. Lotus Sun couldn't help but ponder over this heart-to-heart talk. Speaking of which, Jiang Xiaoche was also a playmate who had grown up with her, and it wasn't that she couldn't sense Jiang Xiaoche's feelings for her, but sometimes, feelings were a very complicated thing. If you didn't feel anything, you just didn't feel anything. She knew very well that she would never fall in love with Jiang Shaoqi in this life. At most, she would only see him as an older brother. But in recent days, Jiang Shaoqi had repeatedly overstepped his boundaries. At the end of the day, she thought it was all because of jealousy. She had to think of a solution as soon as possible. From the perspective of a childhood playmate, she really didn't want Jiang Shaoqi to continue making mistakes. Uncle Lin, don't you think we should have him find a wife as soon as possible and settle down? Lotus Sun said, you should have a lot of connections in this area, right? I can try. Butler Lin nodded. Among Huagua Water Curtain Group's derivative industries, such as entertainment variety shows, Butler Lin had single-handedly managed them. He had a lot of cultivation reality show resources under his control. Lotus Sun's idea coincided with Butler Lin's. He really felt that after returning to China, they should find a matchmaking reality show or a love show and arrange it for Jiang Shaoqi. Elsewhere, Super Chen, Hero Guo, Li Yue and Fong Xing had officially arrived in Glio City, and under Huagua Water Curtain Group's arrangements, they were staying in a chain hotel. When will Boss Sun arrive? I didn't cross mountains and seas just to do my homework here. When Super Chen's familiar voice rang out in the next room, Wang Ling instantly shuddered. Good heavens, this group of people had directly surrounded him. Chapter 1781. In the past, given Wang Ling's unsociable personality and slight social phobia, he had been extremely repulsed by the feeling of being surrounded by people. But now, he realized that his temperament seemed to have been smoothed out a little. At the very least, when he faced Super Chen, Hirogua, and these classmates whom he interacted with every day and could be considered familiar with, he no longer felt that they were strangers from the bottom of his heart. When all was said and done, Wang Ling felt that he actually longed for a few friends. They didn't need to be too strong or rich. As long as they were kind people who lived a positive life and were full of love, that was enough. With this group of people by his side, even just listening to them chatting on the side seemed pretty interesting. After sensing the movement next door, Wang Ling hesitated whether to go and say hello. At that moment, Wang Muyu took the initiative to tug at the corner of his shirt. Brother Ling, do you want to go and take a look? The little guy was obviously encouraging him, and very cleverly changed the way he addressed him. Wang Ling realized that he couldn't resist Wang Muyu's star eye attack, and in the end, he took the little guy's little hand and walked out of the suite. I won't be going, Ling Jinren. Please text me about dinner, I'll arrange everything for you. Glio City's Split Thunder was a very perceptive clone. When he saw that Wang Ling was going to look for his classmates, he immediately decided to give him some space. His task was to take care of Wang Ling's daily life in Glio City during this period, as well as assist in the investigation of Tengu's lair. Now that Wang Ling was going to see his classmates, he would have the opportunity to team up with Wang Ying and investigate everything that could be investigated. Clone plus shadow. This was the perfect combination to be sent out on a mission. It was like sending a teammate to mine in a game of Karma, while you went to the side to make stew and chat in the Water World channel. Given Lotus Sun's rich and overbearing personality, she had prepared a suite for each of the 4 people who had come to Glio City. The suites were piled with all kinds of snacks, desserts, iced drinks, and even a self-service mini-spirit gathering array to assist in cultivation. Wang Ling went to Super Chen's room, where they were laughing and chatting enthusiastically. As soon as he reached the door, he heard Super Chen's bell-like laughter. Haha. Do you think Boss Sun will arrange for us to stay in the same hotel as Wang Ling? Maybe Wang Ling is right next door and will surround him. The first person to fall silent was Fong Xing. As one of Wang Ling's #1 fans, he had already smelled Wang Ling as soon as he entered the hotel. Standing in the doorway, Wang Ling had clearly fallen silent. And for the 10,086th time, he resisted the urge to get rid of Super Chen. Do you think this is a game of Go? Hero Guo shrugged in disbelief. In any case, no matter where classmate Wang Ling is, we can't forget our mission this time. Li Yue smiled mysteriously. The few of them exchanged glances in the room. It was obvious that they had already thought of a comprehensive plan to assist. Furthermore, he had already made preparations on the way to Glio City. He just had to wait for the execution of the plan. However, it was not easy to ensure that the plan was carried out. He remembered that every time he and Lotus Sun went out, as long as there were people following them, something would definitely happen. This might be the legendary butterfly effect. Bang, bang, bang. At that moment, there was a very polite knock on Super Chen's door. But it wasn't Wang Ling who knocked on the door. He had wanted to observe the situation from the doorway. In the end, the little guy next to him looked like he couldn't wait any longer. After knocking on the door, he swiftly used Star Eye on Wang Ling, instantly dispelling his desire to roast him. Wang Ling realized that this little guy Wang Muyu seemed to have found a shortcut to deal with him. Who is it? At that moment, Hirogwa got up of his own accord and opened the door. He was still wearing that "there's a mine at home" short-sleeved shirt. As soon as he opened the door, he was pleasantly surprised to see Wang Ling and Wang Muyu, one big and one small, standing neatly and obediently in the doorway. Shit! Super Chen's blessed mouth hit the nail on the head again. It really is Wang Ling. Hirogwa was pleasantly surprised as he hurriedly welcomed Wang Ling and Wang Muyu in. The moment everyone saw the little fellow, they all looked as if they were overwhelmed by Wang Muyu's cuteness. Wang Ling really rarely saw Super Chen and Hirogwa, these two iron-willed men, blush at the sight of a 6-year-old child's cuteness, as if they were two idiots. As a core member of Battle Sect, Fang Xing was the only one in the room who knew Wang Muyu's true identity. "Hello, big brother, big sister," Wang Muyu greeted them politely. Wearing a face identical to Wang Ling's, he catered to Super Chen and the others with a completely different personality, giving everyone a surreal feeling. He clearly looked very similar to Wang Ling, but they knew that he and Wang Ling were indeed different individuals. Ah, this is what Rong Rong was talking about, classmate Wang Ling's younger cousin, little brother Wang Muyu? He's really too cute. Li Yuyue couldn't help herself. She opened her arms and wanted to hug Wang Muyu. The little guy didn't stand on ceremony either. With a plop, he fell into the arms of the female high school student. He even rubbed his head against Li Yuyue's shoulder, causing Li Yuyue to blush. This kind of initiative was really too much of a foul, and Li Yuyue directly collapsed. "I can." "What can you do?" Super Chen and Hirogwa didn't understand. "Little wooden fish. Do you want to think about it? Big sister can wait for you to grow up." Everyone, Hirogwa tried his best to persuade her. "Classmate Li Yuyue, as the only female high school student here, you should know how to be reserved. Wooden fish is still young and needs to be taken care of. You'll scare the child like this." Sorry. I actually really want a younger sister or brother, but my parents keep saying that it's already hard enough to raise me, and they don't want a second child." Li Yuyue hugged Wang Muyu and sighed. "But now that I've seen wooden fish, I think I can do it again. When I get back, I'll definitely persuade my parents to have another one." Everyone in the small room sighed. I never thought Lingzi's little brother would be so unrestrained. I'm starting to wonder if wooden fish is classmate Wang Ling's younger cousin. Why does it feel so unreal?" Super Chen laughed. Wang Muyu was a living little social butterfly. When it came to acting cute to increase favorability, Wang Ling felt that no one could resist his offensive. "Well, since everyone has seen the Makujio, shall we go to the hotel's restaurant to have some food first? Boss' son ran into some trouble on the way, and she just told me that she'll be there right away," Fang Xing suggested at that moment. He was the only one here who knew what was going on, so he naturally had to think of ways to control the situation and prevent the topic from getting too dangerous. Otherwise, given Super Chen's lousy mouth, any big truth would come out. Chapter 1782. Within the Wisdom Tree, news of the Siren Demon's defeat quickly spread. The 8-star Tengu, nicknamed Master Ba, told everyone the order from the top. For a moment, everyone was disheartened. They had thought that their plan to split the battle sect would go smoothly. Who would have thought that such an inexplicable and unheard-of expert would appear out of nowhere? It could be said that Wang Meili's appearance was an accident. She had appeared out of nowhere and blocked the way, destroying all the plans that Tengu was trying to implement. The Siren Demon Senior lost to Wang Meili. Her again, Where did this woman come from? Where did she come from? According to the reliable information provided by Dizun and the records of the Siren Demon Senior's fight, we can conclude that this Wang Meili is an eternal one. This battle sect elder named Wang Mimi was very likely to be an eternal one, just like Dizun and Householder Sea Monster. She was known as the Blood Lotus Female Butcher in ancient times, said Master Ba. The Blood Lotus Female Butcher? The Tengu were in an uproar. No one had expected Wang Meili to be an eternal one as well. But when they thought about it carefully, it seemed that this was the only explanation for why Wang Meili could defeat the Siren Demon Senior, who was also an eternal one. The true strength of these eternal ones was far beyond the comprehension of Earth's cultivators. They could easily beat a planet like a bowling ball. The reason why Tengu had been able to grow unbridled over the past few years was ultimately because everyone had full confidence in themselves. They knew that there was a big shot, the Eternal One, whose combat strength far exceeded that of Earth's cultivators. The Siren Demon Senior was an Eternal One that they were familiar with, and Dizun was familiar with. A 5-star Tengu said, "It seems that everything makes sense now. I was wondering why the battle sect could develop so much in such a short period of time. It turns out that there is an eternal one behind it." Master Ba crossed his fingers and held his chin. "You're wrong. I'm afraid the battle sect's background is deeper than we thought." "What do you mean?" "According to the Siren Demon Senior, unless there is a great benefit, the proud Eternal One would not lower himself to work for someone else. The Sea Demon Layman and the Venerable Sovereign are good friends, so he has a reason to help us. Then why is this Blood Lotus Female Butcher an elder in the fighting sect? Maybe he's also a friend, like a guest? Since we're friends, I'll help his friends. Don't you think it's strange that she's wearing the skin of a beautiful earth cultivator to hide her identity as the Blood Lotus Female Butcher and willingly hide as an elder in the battle sect?" Master Ba said. At this point, everyone suddenly understood. The 8th Master is right. Many people nodded in agreement. Thinking of the behemoth hidden behind battle sect, they were a little flustered for a moment. Then if that's the case, aren't there a lot of ancient beings hidden behind battle sect? Even grenade-throwing Senior Immortal, the leader of battle sect, and the elders of the core group might be one of them. So, this is what Senior Siren Demon Senior is most worried about. Under the mask, Master Ba's expression was exceptionally solemn. His tone was low, and everyone could sense a hidden tension in his voice. Although Senior Siren Demon Senior's operation this time failed, at least we've probed battle sect's strength and avoided direct losses in a head-on clash. The other party might have no less than 10 ancient beings in their hands. Can we really resist them? Heh, are you looking down on the Venerable Sovereign? Master Ba laughed. The Venerable Sovereign never said that Senior Siren Demon Senior was his only friend. Also, I've already received news that the Venerable Sovereign will continue to send more than 20 ancient beings to support us, both openly and secretly. Furthermore, the Venerable Sovereign thinks that we have to crush Battle Sect first before destroying its financial network. So the Senior Siren he sent to us is also an expert in this area? What kind of senior is he? This senior's codename is Stonecutter. As the name suggests, he has a way of turning wasteland into spirit stones. This is much faster than injecting spirit energy into the spirit stone making machine. Master Ba said, with the help of Senior Stone Apothecary, we can sell the spirit stones created by Senior Stone Apothecary for cash. Then, we can continuously expand our capital without any losses. In the end, we can monopolize the spirit stones on Earth and push down the value of immortal gold. So that's how it is. They want to empty Battle Sect? A 6-star Heavenly Hound exclaimed. But there are ancient beings in Battle Sect. If they send them to inject spirit energy and use the spirit stone making machine to create spirit stones, won't that create a conflict with us? It's impossible. Master Ba shook his head. The steps of Earth's spirit stone making machine are complicated. After injecting spirit energy, it needs to be repeatedly purified to form spirit stones. Although the ancient beings have an ocean of spirit energy, they are still people from ancient times. Spirit energy isn't the only type of energy in their bodies. It's impossible to analyze such a complicated energy composition with Earth's spirit stone-making machine. Unless there's someone who can continuously produce pure spiritual power and can continue to output it regardless of the cost, that's the only way. Lord Ba smiled and said, "Everyone here should be very clear that such a person simply doesn't exist. Using the spirit stone-making machine to continuously produce spirit stones and injecting spirit energy without rest will consume one's lifespan. Even a ready-made spirit stone-making machine has to follow a reasonable rotation system. No one would be stupid enough to squeeze themselves dry in a place like this." Master Ba's words make a lot of sense. Squeezing yourself dry isn't good for your kidneys. The heavenly hounds roared with laughter, and the originally tense atmosphere began to gradually ease up. "Don't worry, everyone. Di Zun promised me that the ancient beings who came to our aid this time will definitely destroy Battle Sect. Apart from the stonecutter that I just introduced, there are many other ancient beings. Let me introduce them to everyone later. As for the ancient beings in the dark, where are they? As far as I know, they've already hidden themselves among Earth's cultivators. Just like the beautiful Blood Lotus Butcher disguised as Wang, they have excellent identities as a cover. They could be male stars, female idols, delivery boys, shoe manufacturers who refuse to apologize, or authors who refuse to update their chapters because they don't know how to update their chapters." Chapter 1783. The hotel's dining setup was a Chinese buffet with all kinds of delicacies from the 8 major cuisines. Apart from that, there was also a special area for creative cuisine. The people accompanying them realized that crispy noodle snacks seemed to be indispensable to these creative cuisines. For example, if you crushed them, wrapped them in lobster, and fried them, you would become the new tempura. Is there such a way to eat? This ingratiation was so obvious that Super Chen, Hirogua, and the others were stupefied. At the same time, they felt a little jealous as well as admiration for Wang Ling. In a normal situation, no one would be able to withstand such a fierce sugar-coated bullet from the young miss of a financial group. Furthermore, it wasn't just sugar-coated bullets. They could even feel Lotus Sun's affection for Wang Ling from these trivial details. Unfortunately, this iron tree didn't blossom, and Blockhead didn't become enlightened. That innocent face with its dead fish eyes looked like it would never receive any emotional signals, which made people feel anxious. Old Pan had always opposed high school relationships, and believed that studying was always the top priority. The people from number 60 high school could naturally understand their teacher-in-charge's good intentions. But when it came to relationships, it was hard to say. Sometimes, a spark would suddenly sprout, and there was no stopping it. Of course, this included Super Chen, Hirogua, Li Yuyue, and Fang Xing. They weren't the slightest bit worried that Lotus Sun and Wang Ling would be criticized by the school for their relationship in high school, because judging from the current results, Wang Ling, this blockhead, was like an emotionless machine. Perhaps it would take a long time for the seed of this emotion to blossom and bear fruit. "When do you think they'll be together?" Hirogua asked curiously as he put food on his plate. "I don't think they'll be able to settle it in high school. Maybe in university?" Super Chen guessed casually. He had just said it casually. No one thought that Super Chen's casual remark would actually become a prophecy later on. They talked and laughed as they put food on their plates. Only Fang Xing's expression was unruffled like an ancient well, and it wasn't hard to see that he was a little solemn. He was the only one among them who knew Wang Muyu's true identity. At the same time, as one of the core members of the Battle Sect, he had naturally come with a mission. Although Super Chen, Hirogua, and Li Yue had been invited by Lotus Sun for this trip abroad this time, Fang Xing still had to pay attention to controlling the conversation at all times, as well as the safety of the 3 of them during their regular trips. After all, Tengu was already trying to make a move on Lotus Sunday. If they went crazy, they might even attack Lotus Sun's classmates. As people who had been personally invited by Lotus Sun to travel abroad, it went without saying that Super Chen and the others were in danger. Thus, Fang Xing was extremely cautious throughout the meal, keeping a close eye on his surroundings for any suspicious people. In short, Fang Xing was really too nervous. So nervous that he could even feel it. Wang Ling didn't know when it had started, but Fang Xing had felt a kind of pressure on him. In Wang Ling's memory, Fang Xing hadn't been like this in the past. His sunny smile and unruffled demeanor seemed to be what Wang Ling remembered him to be like. Wang Ling glanced at Fang Xing out of the corner of his eye, then walked toward the private room from the cooking area. In passing, he used the primer spell to toss a piece of crispy noodle snack chocolate into Fang Xing's plate. Dessert was good for easing the tense atmosphere. Fang Xing stared blankly at the special chocolate on his plate for a long time. He seemed to sense Wang Ling's meaning, and then he adjusted his breathing and heaved a sigh of relief before following Wang Ling into the private room. He had just taken a step when the crisp sound of a plate shattering rang out behind him. Someone smashed the porcelain plate in his hand onto the floor and even pushed over the dessert rack on the table. Trash. All trash. What creative cuisine, putting junk food flour into noble desserts. Is this how your hotel deceives its customers? A burly blonde foreign man cursed rapidly in a foreign language. Super Chen and Hero Guo weren't good at English, and the man spoke so quickly that for a moment, they didn't quite understand what he meant. They only roughly understood that the man was complaining about the desserts on the buffet table. It felt like he was taking a listening test, and it was a hellish listening test with difficulty. At that moment, Wang Ling's hand trembled slightly as he held the fork. Brother, forget it, let's not lower ourselves to this man's level. He's just here to pick a fight. Wang Muyu stood on a chair on the side and patted Wang Ling's shoulder lightly. He had to comfort him, because he felt that if he didn't think of a way to pacify him, it wouldn't just be this man who would die an ugly death, even the earth would die an ugly death. They sat motionlessly in the private room. As Wang Ling ate, he gazed at the back of the foreign man outside with his king's eye. Perhaps sensing the resentment behind his back, the man instinctively felt a chill run down his spine. But as the party who had been paid to do the job, he had to get it done no matter how difficult it was. My big brother, it's because he ate the food here. He's still lying in the hospital. This hotel's back kitchen isn't clean at all. He continued to clamor. He had no evidence and was just making up empty words. Wang Ling realized that this seemed to be the ancestral skill of some foreigners who were good at lying, twisting right and wrong to make a lie sound like the truth. And to them, this might not be a lie, because these people had done it before. There were a lot of recent examples to illustrate this, and Wang Ling couldn't be bothered to prove it. He sat in the private room and kept his cool, planning to see how things would develop. Very quickly, the hotel's restaurant manager rushed over. He was a kind-looking, black-haired Asian little brother who looked very kind. When he saw the situation in front of him, he patiently explained to the man in front of him, "Sir, please show me your ticket." The man had all his props, and he hurriedly took out the ticket from his pocket. "Right here." "What? Do you think I'm a freeloader?" The manager looked at it and smiled. "I'm very sorry, sir. The creative cuisine area you're in right now isn't covered by this ticket. In other words, you don't have the right to taste the food in the creative cuisine area. We will compensate you at the original price for these destroyed delicacies. At the same time, please leave this place as soon as possible, and this restaurant will refund all your expenses. From now on, we will no longer receive rude customers." "What do you mean by this?" The man was furious and grabbed the hotel manager's collar. The hotel manager's expression was calm and unflustered. "As you've heard, Mr. Meili, you've already been blacklisted by our hotel. This is also the instruction of our hotel's newcomer, Boss Sunday. If you're still unreasonable, Boss Sun said that depending on the situation, we might take the hotel's self-defense measures. In order to protect the safety of other guests, we have the right to break your legs and drag you out." After saying this, the manager looked at the private room Wang Ling was in. "Do you see that, Mr. Meili? The people in the private room are our hotel's distinguished guests, and they're enjoying the delicacies. They're pitiful, weak, and helpless." Chapter 1784. Even without reading the other party's mind, Wang Ling knew that this was someone who had been arranged to come here. Even if he didn't read the other party's mind, Wang Ling knew that this person was deliberately looking for trouble. The force he belonged to could be Tengu, or it could be another organization. After all, Glio City was a foreign country, and the internal structure of the city was very complicated. Tengu was just one of the forces. There were also mercenaries, news organizations, local tyrants, and cultivation research institutes stationed in Glio City all year round. These organizations usually didn't get along with each other, but they all had one thing in common, which was that they were very xenophobic. They didn't even hesitate to fabricate news and fabricate lies to whitewash some of their vile deeds. Take a small number of news organizations, for example. The fake news they broadcast was almost always filtered through the netherworld, and didn't seem out of place at all when accompanied by Swona music. It felt as if they were about to send people away. This person is deliberately looking for trouble, isn't he? Liu asked at that moment, breaking the silence in the private room. There's clearly a problem. Boss Sun's Huagua Water Curtain Group has a partnership with Battle Sect, which is already very eye-catching. In addition, he has now acquired a lot of hotel chains in Glio City. I'm afraid this kind of behavior has touched on the interests of some people here. Hiro Gua calmly analyzed the situation. In the future, there will definitely be a lot of people who will come to cause trouble. Liu, I heard that a lot of people in Glio City are very xenophobic, especially Asians. Even an old granny walking on the road might suddenly meet one or two pieces of trash and fall to the ground with a flying kick. Hearing this, Fang Xing sighed helplessly. This is the world's chain of discrimination, and it will always exist. It's hard to change it in a short period of time, and the only way is to become stronger. You have to become stronger and stronger, so strong that one day you can make them follow your heart. Follow your heart? It means being a coward. I see. As Wang Ling listened to the debate in the private room, he also noticed that the man outside had finally left the restaurant under the hotel manager's kind and forceful eviction. He had left, but this ruckus had still affected the customers around them. Faced with the mess in front of him, the hotel manager couldn't help sighing. He shook his head as he helplessly ordered people to clean up the mess. I wonder if the person just now had any camera equipment. At that moment, Liu suddenly said, nowadays, there are a lot of cases where the villain accuses the victim first. If that man had recorded something, then edited it maliciously and posted it on the internet, I'm afraid it would have a serious impact on Boss Sunday. That's too cheap. Super Chen was amazed. But you can't deny that there are people who believe in this. Whether it's in the country or abroad, people will only believe in what they believe. When the rumors started to spread, the truth was no longer that important to some people. They just wanted the temporary pleasure of venting their anger. After I say what I want to say, I don't care what the truth is. Do you want me to handle it? Fang Xing looked into Wang Ling's eyes and asked telepathically. Wang Ling secretly shook his head. He had already texted Wang Ming to check that person's coordinates and make sure that no strange things had been secretly recorded. Furthermore, given Wang Ming's personality, when he hacked into the other party's equipment, he would also publish some of the strange things that were stored in the other party's equipment. If they were uploaded to the internet for public exhibition, it would be a social death. Super Chen picked up a mouthful of food, and it tasted like wax in his mouth. Sure enough, after someone stirred it up, his meal didn't even taste good anymore. He couldn't help complaining, this kind of person doesn't know how to live. Everyone, at 8 o'clock that evening, when Lotus Sun had just arrived in Glio City. On the way to the hotel, she saw the news broadcast on the local news station. It said that a man called Mei Li had been cursing and not paying attention to the road conditions as he left the hotel, and had directly been sent flying by a truck. He fell into a sewer that was being repaired in a Thomas full spin position, and finally fell into a septic tank deep inside. Because of the acceleration of gravity, he sank too deep, and after flopping around a few times, he suffocated and died. Lotus Sun, Uncle Lin, is this Mei Li the person who came to our hotel to cause trouble before? Steward Lin swept his gaze over the portrait on the screen and frowned. Not good, it really seems to be him. Why do you say it's not good? Lotus Sun didn't understand. Miss, there's something you don't know, but the forces in Glio City are very complicated. This person came to cause trouble right after we bought the hotel. It's clear that he was secretly arranged by a small group of forces. Steward Lin said, this person didn't directly die in our hotel, and from the surveillance footage, it was 100% an accident. However, the forces behind him definitely think that it was because this man caused trouble, so we secretly sent someone to get rid of him. Is that even possible? Lotus Sun was stunned. She hadn't expected to run into this kind of trouble as soon as she arrived in Glio City. She had just wanted to take everyone here to have some fun and sightsee, and in passing help Wang Ling use up the world's snack voucher. She had never thought that as soon as she landed, she would be directly embroiled in a power struggle. Miss, I'm afraid the road ahead won't be easy. As the saying goes, a powerful dragon can't suppress a local snake. We've just bought the hotel, so we have to be very careful from now on. Steward Lin said worriedly, these people could retaliate against us or the people around us at any time. Miss, you have your own Shifu, so I can relax a little when it comes to safety. But miss, your classmates? Yue will stay with me for the next 2 days, it won't be a problem. I can protect her, said Lotus Sunday, but what about that hero Gua? He has a lot of uncles and maybe his uncles are also in those forces, Fang Xing. Uncle Lin should know, right? He's actually immortal Shi Pai's son, so it's definitely no problem for him to protect himself. Then what about Super Chin? Hearing this, Lotus Sun instantly fell silent. Because she couldn't say anything about Super Chin. She could vaguely sense that Mei Li's death might have something to do with Super Chin. You see, miss, there are always places we can't take care of. Steward Lin frowned. I'm still most worried about Mr. Wang Ling and young Master Wooden Fish. Look at them, they're both so weak that they can stand up to a gust of wind. They could be seriously injured at any time. Lotus Sun. In fact, these two were the most dangerous. One was a little dragon man formed from the combination of excellent dragon genes, and the other was an immortal king with unknown strength. So here was the problem. Lotus Sun herself knew that a powerful dragon couldn't suppress a local snake. But these two were here. She was actually quite curious, even if they were suppressed, what could these people do to them? Chapter 1785. The Crimson Orchid Society was the largest mafia organization in Glio City. It engaged in all sorts of illegal activities and had several highly mature mercenary groups under its command. Mei Li, who had fallen into the septic tank and died, was one of the members of the Crimson Orchid Society. Before Huagua Water Curtain Group had acquired the Snail Hotel chain, the previous owner of the Snail Hotel had regularly paid the Crimson Orchid Society a security management fund to maintain order in the hotels. In layman's terms, it was protection money. But now that Huagua Water Curtain Group had taken over, the Crimson Orchid Society had lost a way to collect large amounts of funds without taking any risks. Of course, the Crimson Orchid Society wouldn't let it go so easily, so they decided to send a team leader called Mei Li to cause trouble before making a big fuss, as a warning. The president of the Crimson Orchid Society was also taking a gamble. He was betting that if he made a scene, Lotus Sun would get scared and continue to pay protection money like the previous owner of the Snail Hotel, and he would be able to enjoy the profits without any effort. However, the president of the Crimson Orchid Society, Levis, hadn't expected that Mei Li would actually die, and that her death had nothing to do with the Snail Hotel. At least not on the surface. The video recorded by the surveillance camera clearly captured the scene of Mei Li cursing as she walked out of the hotel. Because she did not look at the road, she was directly loaded into the sewer by a truck and fell into the septic tank. The president of the Crimson Orchid Society, Levis, trembled all over at the sight. President, is there really no hope for team leader Mei Li? He's in the late golden core stage. A female secretary beside Levis asked fearfully. It's no use even if he's in the golden core stage. In Glio City, the average level of cultivators is at the early golden core stage. The quality of cultivators is very high. Moreover, the The filth in the septic tank is also the toxins excreted by cultivators at or above the gold core stage. Meili was surrounded by so many mixed toxins, it would be very difficult for her to hold on. When Levis said this, even he himself felt a little nauseous. Such a way of dying was unprecedented. Could be said to be tragic. This group of people was simply too daring. They'd only just arrived in Glio City, yet they dared to plan such a sophisticated murder. Levis was a little puzzled. Who was it? This was the real evil force. President, could this be a pure coincidence? It can't be a coincidence. Levis shook his head. It's obvious, this is a provocation. Huagua Water Curtain Group plus War Sect, their intelligence gathering ability would definitely not be weak. She must have known that Meili was a member of the Crimson Orchid Association. In a situation where you already know the identity of the target, you still plan such an intricate murder. This courage is really not ordinary. As he spoke, Levis frowned. Lotus Sun had given him a show of strength as soon as they arrived in Glio City, forcing him to reconsider his strategy. He knew very well that his current opponents were different from those he had faced in the past. Just half a year ago, the once flourishing Shadow Stream assassin organization had been targeted and wiped out because it had provoked Huagua Water Curtain Group. Thus, they had to be especially cautious. At that moment, the female secretary saw Levis flipping through files on Shadow Stream and couldn't help asking, "President, what are you worried about?" "Of course I'm worried that we might repeat Shadow Stream's mistakes," Levis said, although the official statement about Shadow Stream says that the person who destroyed this organization was that Ajwa, who has recently risen to fame in Huaxiao Nation. The person who stopped the Demon King from descending 6 years ago? That's him. Levis frowned. But I have a feeling that he's blocking this matter for someone. Of course, these are all my guesses. While he was talking to his secretary, there was an urgent knock on the door. "Come in," said Levis. A security guard in a black suit pushed open the door and entered. "President, there's a nun called Ali looking for you. She says she has something important to discuss with you." "Which church?" "St. Peter." "Invite her in." "Yes," the security guard responded and quietly retreated. Less than 2 minutes later, a graceful woman in a black church robe and a veil over her face entered through the door. This nun called Ali didn't look very old and was about the age of a high school student. She had a very iconic tear-shaped mole at the corner of her eye. However, his every movement exuded a sense of steadiness and mystery, which seemed to greatly deviate from his age. "Hello, President Levis. I'm Nun Ali of St. Peter's Church. This time, I have something to discuss with you," AI Lee said. "I don't remember our Crimson Orchid Association having any dealings with St. Peter." Levis stared at Ali and said, "And my current location is one of the Crimson Orchid Association's secrets. How did you know I was here?" Levis stood up and lit the cigar in his hand. After taking a deep breath, he looked at the nun in front of him and said, "There's only one possibility. You're not here on behalf of St. Peter." President Levis's words are quite interesting. "You don't have to pretend in front of me." Levis waved his hand and smiled. "You're the Tengu, am I right? Other than the Tengu, I'm afraid no one else has this kind of information gathering ability. St. Peter is just your coat. You're working for the Tengu, as expected of the president of the Crimson Orchid Association." The nun called Ali smiled. "You Tengu are also interesting. In the past, you've always been a wolf hiding in the shadows. Why are you playing openly now? Aren't you afraid that the Prophet will investigate and kill you? Since the enemy is different, we naturally have to change our tactics." Ali smiled. "I'm here on behalf of the Tengu this time to offer advice to President Levis. We've just received intelligence that a subordinate named Mary has died." "That's true." Levis nodded. "To tell you the truth, our Tengu is currently looking for an opportunity to target Huagua Water Curtain Group and Battle Sect. We're deeply sorry that your subordinate died, but the truth is that he has already contributed to this matter," said Ali. "Go on." Levis's interest was piqued. "It's very simple, Mr. Levis. Our top priority now is to restrict these people from Huagua Water Curtain Group from leaving the country. None, Ali said. According to Michio's entry and exit regulations, anyone who is accused in the country can't leave Michio's borders. Of course, the other party may be able to escape using a teleportation array, but if they do, it proves that they're guilty. So they have no choice but to stay and clarify the facts. You mean to restrict them all to Glio City? Levis smiled and nodded. Interesting. Glio City is our turf. As long as we can keep them here, it's up to us how we deal with them. If we let them go like this, it'll be hard to deal with them. That's what I mean. Ali nodded. But from what you're saying, you want to charge them with murder. But Huagua Water Curtain Group's legal team isn't to be trifled with. You don't have to worry about this, President Lee. We've already found information on the truck driver, said Ali. As long as it's proven that the truck driver was hired by Huagua Water Curtain Group, he'll be charged with murder. And that Miss Sun will be detained in Glio City as a bargaining chip for our negotiation with Battle Sect. That you're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.